By user ThrowRA, my sister sucks. Can relate. Am I the asshole here for blowing up at my sister because her husband's behavior is not my fault? I, 26 female, live in a small town with a lot of family. Aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents. Basically everyone related to me lives here. My sister Lilia, 28 female, married her husband Shawn, 31 male, last year. I don't know him very well, but I don't have a problem with him either. Every other weekend, my mum will host a party type thing for the whole family. There's food, decorations, music, etc. Everyone has a blast. A few months ago, my sister started acting kinda strange at these parties. Her husband isn't a very social person from what I can tell. He usually stands off to the side, sometimes without food. Lilia started making comments, usually to our immediate family, but sometimes to anyone who will listen, about how Shawn thinks the decorations look tacky, or Shawn thinks the music is too loud. Why doesn't Shawn just go tell people that? Why is Lilia doing it? What's wrong, Shawn? You afraid of ruining the vibe over in your corner over there? At first, it was basically harmless, but the comments got worse and worse. She started saying things like that outside of family parties too. The weekend before last, she made small talk for a while before saying, Shawn doesn't look like he's having a good time. I don't think he likes the food very much. I can't really blame him. We don't usually eat at low-class restaurants like yours. At this point, you and Shawn both suck, Lilia. What is going on? Hey, do us a favor and skip town, alright? We don't need your kind around here. Her comments always pissed me off, but this pushed me pretty hard. My mom works really hard to make delicious food for these parties. She's a chef at Olive Garden, and I guess my mom could tell that I was getting upset, so she pulled me aside and told me not to say anything to Lilia, that it wasn't a big deal, stuff like that. I respected her wishes, even though I really wanted to stand up for her. Last week, Lilia called and said Shawn's best friend is getting married. I'm a wedding planner, and she wants me to plan the wedding. I said sure. This weekend, Shawn's best friend and his fiancée had a joint bachelor and bachelorette party. Lilia is a bridesmaid, and she invited me to come along so I could meet the bride and groom and probably officially become their wedding planner. When I arrived at the club, Lilia immediately grabbed my wrist and pulled me to the bathroom. She said, Shawn isn't happy. No one will take you seriously as a wedding planner if you dress like a slalala. You embarrassed him, and now the groom will blame him for recommending a shitty planner. I had enough of her at this point. It felt like she was just using Shawn as an excuse to voice her own opinions. I said, if Shawn thinks I'm a shitty wedding planner for dressing normally for a damn club, he can get the groom a new wedding planner. I walked out and went home. Am I the asshole here? Indio Jones says, Info. Is Shawn, actually saying this stuff? I'm half convinced that your sister is just moving him around Weekend at Bernie's style. If all he does is sit in the corner at family parties and not say anything, I would A, check for a pulse, and B, start talking to him directly. OP says, I've never heard him actually say any of this stuff. I'm gonna go talk to him at the next family party, presumably after my sister makes another rude comment, and see if he knows what the hell I'm talking about. Backgrounding Cat says, Info. Do you think Shawn is trying to isolate your sister from her family? And OP says, no, I think these are her opinions that she's voicing through Shawn. Maybe he is trying to isolate her. I don't know. Basic Historian says, first, not the asshole. No matter if it is Shawn or your sister. Not nitpicking, just asking, are they having the bachelorette party super early? I've only heard of them at most a month or so before a wedding. That really didn't give you any time to plan. Makes me wonder if your sister only called you out to mock you or make you look crazy, like some rando trying to get a job. Just saying, it feels a bit off. OP replies, I thought they just wanted an excuse to have a party with all their friends. Turns out, the wedding is in 2 weeks. What? Oh my god! You're the worst wedding planner for our wedding that we've just hired you for in 2 weeks. Good luck. These are not serious people. Someone else says, not the asshole. Your sister is a seriously crappy person. She constantly complains about the work that you and your mum do. She has the audacity to put the blame on her husband. Have you ever actually heard him say anything like this? I'd be willing to bet that she's the one with all the issues, and they're all reflective of her own insecurities. OP says, no, we don't normally talk, and as far as I can tell, he's never said anything like this. Zombie Healthy says, so walk up to him and directly tell him what your sister said and ask him if he said it. Call him out. If he looks at you blankly or says, what are you talking about? Tell him your sister is making a fool of him and good luck. And OP says, it's a good idea. Thank you. I think pulling them both aside individually and getting the full story from both of them will give you a lot of clarity as to what the truth of the situation is. Because in a niche scenario where Shawn is trying to isolate OP's sister, Lilia, from the family, that's bad. We need to get Lilia some help. We need to get Shawn away from her because he's making her say a bunch of crazy shit that is going to get her excommunicated from the family, and he will have her all to himself. That's a possibility. You need to be ready for that, and you need to be ready to help her if that's the case. But I think it's more likely that it is just Lilia talking shit and using him as a scapegoat. So in that case, not the asshole for blowing up at your sister because her husband's behavior is not your fault. What a disgusting thing to do to you, to send you to a club and then say that you dress like a slalala. What is wrong with these people? You dress like that for clubs. They're such assholes for shaming you for something that is a complete non-issue. And now, onto the update. So I ended up inviting Shawn and Lilia out to lunch. Lilia was still a little upset that I had dressed like a slalala at the club, but mostly things were fine. Before we left, I asked Shawn if he thought my outfit at the club was inappropriate. He said no. I asked if he thought my mother's cooking was bad. He said no again, and this time he looked more confused. Before I could ask him about another comment, Lilia grabbed his arm and pulled him up. She said they had to go. Shawn looked even more confused and told Lilia that he wanted to hear what I was going to ask next. She looked visibly angry, and after I asked him if he thought the decorations were tacky, Lilia said, if you're not coming, I'm leaving without you. And she ran to the car before either of us could stop her. Shawn was really confused now, and asked why I thought he didn't like the food, etc. I told him the whole story of how Lilia was telling me and my immediate family that he was saying rude things. He looked completely shocked now. He said he never said any of those things and that he thinks the parties are wonderful. He explained he's just a little antisocial and gets nervous around people he doesn't know well, which I totally get. He apologized if anything he did was offensive, but I said there was no need for an apology. I gave him a ride home. Lilia took off with their car. When we got there, my sister's car wasn't in the driveway. I went to my mum's house next to drop off some stuff I had for her in the car. When I got there, Lilia's car was parked outside. She was sitting at the dining table crying, and my mum was doing her best to comfort her. When my sister saw me, she started crying even harder. I sat down, and I waited until she could calm down. When she finally did, I gently asked why she was saying all those things. Lilia said, I don't know, to make you hate him, I guess? And my mum asked why she wanted us to hate him. She kept replying to our questions with, I don't knows, before admitting the truth. She said she'd been feeling jealous since our brother Eric got married. She felt like he was getting all the attention, especially when his wife announced her pregnancy. She also said Eric was always the golden child growing up, and she wanted people to notice her just this once. I never thought that he was the golden child. In fact, Lilia seemed to be favored over him, but maybe I was too wrapped up in my own stuff to notice. My sister decided to stir up some drama to get the attention back on her. She used Shawn because no one in the family knew him very well, and it was very easy because he doesn't interact with a lot of people. She claims she wanted the attention so badly, even if it was negative. She wanted to see how far that we would let her go before one of us snapped. After a long talk, she promised never to do anything like this again, and admitted that she mostly did all of this out of resentment towards Eric for always stealing the spotlight. My mum promised to pay more attention to her, and she apologized if she ever made Lilia feel like Eric was better than her, and we all hugged it out. Earlier tonight, Lilia called me and said that she and Shawn were going to try couples therapy and she was going to get individual therapy for herself. I said I was happy for her and she can come to me if she ever needs anything. I guess that's it. I'll update again if anything else happens. Almost Infinity says, dang. Personally, I would never trust Lilia with anything ever again, especially because she craved attention so much, she didn't care if it made her partner, a man that she supposedly loves, into the bad guy. What's stopping her from doing that to any one of you if she could do that to the man that she made vows with? Quote, my mum promised to pay more attention to her, and she apologized if she ever made Lilia feel like Eric was better than her. I don't really like this response, to be honest. Lilia straight up admitted that she wanted people to hate Shawn for no reason, and she gets rewarded with love and more attention. OP replies, my mum has stage 4 cancer, and we don't know how much longer she'll be here. I completely understand wanting all of this to just be over and cherishing the time she has left with her daughter, but in a different situation, I 100% agree that this wouldn't be a great response. Almost Infinity replies, I guess that does change things quite significantly. Sorry to hear about your mother. I totally get wanting to make amends with the time left. Negotiation Agile says, poor Shawn. He just found out that he married a woman who was willing to tarnish his reputation and throw him under the bus for some attention. It's also sad that she doesn't even realize she's the favorite child. When another child gets some attention, she feels resentful and assumes she's being overshadowed. Hopefully, therapy will help her. She's fortunate that her husband is willing to go to couples counseling after she's been bad-mouthing him and painting him as the villain to her family for the sake of drama. Maleficent Mistake says, honestly, OP, if I were you, I'd give your sister some low-contact space, because she's acted horribly to all of you and at her poor husband's expense, all because she didn't have enough attention. She needs help, and you need to stay away from her for a bit. She's just drama at this point. OP replies, I would, but I think a lot of this was caused by my mum's declining health. I want to be there for all of my family if the worst were to happen. Maleficent Mistake replies, you can still be there for your mum while keeping low contact with your sister. Stop making excuses for her. OP says, my mum wants all of us to be there for her as a family. If I went low contact, it would really hurt my mum and cause other damage to the family. I also think this is just Lilia's way of dealing with the grief of possibly losing our mum. It doesn't excuse her behavior, of course, but I can't go low contact now when she needs me. Username must contain 0 says, at the very least, Shawn has to know. You all feel bound by blood and hard times, and there's nothing wrong with that, but he deserves the right to choose if he wants to spend his life with someone who would do something like this to him. That level of attention-seeking and all the reasons behind it need therapy. OP replies, they're getting couples therapy, and she's getting individual therapy as well. And Buggier Bria Lee says, but do you know that your sister didn't lie to him about the situation? He needs the whole truth, not her version of it. And I would hope that that comes out in individual and couples therapy for the husband in this case. Very much difficult and nuanced situation here, especially when you bring up mum's cancer. Again, it does explain some things as to why they happened, but that sister needs some serious help. You know, if she wants that help to sort all of her shit out. You really just can't be doing all of that, and it's so eye-opening to me that as soon as she's called out for it in front of her husband, she just runs away, and it just leaves with the car. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave my partner stranded so that, like, I can make my point even more shittily that I don't want to take accountability and I'm gonna leave you stranded, and I'm gonna leave you with the person that has to explain this situation to you more as to how messed up my actions were and how much I threw you up under the bus. Like, my God, she is just a flaming mess of a person, that sister. And like, yes, you're dealing with the loss of your mother because of stage 4 cancer. I can't imagine how everyone is feeling in this situation right now, but starting petty drama so that you get attention over your brother and causing, fractures within your family unit while your mother is dying. That's just such bad news. It's just such a bad look. That could probably lead to the divorce of her and her partner, because what a shitty thing to do, and I wouldn't blame him if he walks out on her even after this couples therapy. I think that's understandably a very shitty thing to do. I would leave someone over that. It's like, why are you spreading lies about me and defaming me to everyone who is supposed to love us? What's wrong with you? Because how can you trust someone like that again? If they've done it once to you before to such a bad scale and then runs away from accountability, how can you trust that person again that they're not going to do this and then try and sweep their actions under the rug and run away again? Why stay with someone like that? I don't know. That's my thoughts on this situation. Thank you for sharing the story with us, OP. I really hope that you can grapple with the loss of your mother there. I genuinely cannot imagine the pain that you're going through with this. What do you guys think of this one? Down below in the comments. Let me know. My friends didn't invite me to their wedding and then made me the bad guy. So a friend, Greg, 28, in my circle of friends, met Shannon, 28, about 5 years ago, and they immediately hit it off. Everybody instantly fell in love with Shannon because she's friendly and is really fun to hang out with. They were everybody's favorite couple and really made our hangouts much more fun. We all knew they were perfect for each other. They both made our crew that much better. The engagement was expected, but was much welcome news. Our friend circle was buzzing about the inevitable wedding, and then the invitations went out. You know those save the date magnets that people send out? Well, it really sucked seeing them on everybody else's fridge when I visited friends knowing that I didn't get one and wasn't invited. Feeling left out really sucks, but it gets worse. I completely understand how stressful wedding planning is, and I believe that nobody should feel that they have to invite people they don't want to their wedding. It is their day and their ceremony, and they shouldn't have to have people there that they don't want there. I didn't cause a fuss or express to anyone that I was hurt, that I felt excluded from the wedding, and by extension, excluded from the group. I didn't want to be looked on in an even worse way than I feel I was apparently being looked at, but one friend actually stood up for me. When their wedding came up in conversation, and people talked about booking flights and rooms, destination wedding in New York City, eventually I was asked if I booked yet. I said, me and my girlfriend, weren't invited. Nobody could believe it, but I insisted that I wasn't upset because I know how situations like this can go. I didn't want to cause trouble because then the happy couple might resent me. Then I would be the bad guy. I heard through other friends that my friend Tracy thought that it was really messed up that I wasn't invited. She and I never spoke of how I wasn't invited to the wedding, but she really felt a certain way about it. So a month before the destination wedding, I got a text from Greg basically saying sorry for forgetting to send an invite, but that they would love to have us come to the wedding. It was way too late at that point for me. I couldn't get away from my job, and I didn't have a chance to put money aside for a year for an expensive New York City destination wedding like everyone else did. I didn't even get a save the date. Every flight and hotel, no rooms where everyone else was staying, obviously, too late for that, was unaffordable for me. I texted him back that I couldn't make it. The wedding came and went, and I felt bad about everything. I saw the Facebook pictures of my friends all having the times of their lives. It looked like a great wedding. There's even a picture of just the group of friends labeled the crew. I don't think I've ever felt so left out, honestly. It really made me feel worthless and unwanted. So naturally, the typical thoughts surfaced. They don't like you, they think you're annoying, they think you're an asshole. If you can't identify the schmuck in a group of friends, that means you are it. They think you try way too hard to be nice and think you're a phony. Then, as if it couldn't get any worse, Shannon messaged me on Facebook asking why I didn't RSVP and said they missed me at the wedding. RSVP? RSVP? Doesn't one have to be invited in order to RSVP? Everybody got a year to prepare between getting the save the dates and actual wedding invitations. I got a text message a month before the wedding. Just as I feared, I'm being made out to be the bad guy, and I even made a point to keep my feelings to myself and play it cool. But as usual, I didn't say this to her because I know how I would end up looking. I actually apologized for I don't even know, but I made a point to mention how I spoke with Greg about it. I also made sure to compliment the wedding pictures and say that it looked like fun. I did everything I could in that conversation to make it easier on her, and of course now I feel like a total schmuck. That was this past summer, and I haven't seen them since. I feel like that's it for me in the group now. I see some of the friends in our group every now and then, but everything feels different now. None of them even responded to my birthday party Facebook invite this month. I feel like things are being said behind the scenes, and I feel completely out of the loop. It feels like a passive-aggressive message that maybe Greg and Shannon never actually liked me. My fiancé gets along great with Shannon, and she's just confused. Seeing her confusion just makes my heart break even more because she's a sweetheart who has never offended anybody in her life. I wish I could break it to her that I'm just the guy in the group that Greg and Shannon think sucks, but I don't know how, and I feel like a complete loser who deserves this. I'll always appreciate Tracy for sticking up for me. She may never know how awesome it feels hearing about how she told everybody that it was messed up that I was left out. I haven't even spoken to her about how the whole thing made me feel, or anybody for that matter. Reddit, you were the first to hear about it, because I didn't want it to appear like I'm making a stink and becoming even more disliked. This whole thing just effing sucks. I feel like I don't have friends anymore. And to make it worse, soon I'll have a wedding of my own, and I'm afraid that I won't have any friends there. Except for Tracy, of course. How am I supposed to handle who I invite so it doesn't seem like I'm leaving people out for petty revenge? How the hell do I navigate a toxic situation that I had no hand in creating? I still feel like I'm in the dark or could be overreacting. What the hell? In the comments, dude, you clearly tell them that you were not respected like the others. Cut them out. This is about self-respect. Find new friends and don't turn back. OP says, thanks for reading and responding. Yeah, I've been thinking, I guess I can have my younger brother be the best man and just not have groomsmen, considering the circumstances. It's just effed how I did everything that I could to avoid looking like the bad guy, yet here we are. I'm the bad guy regardless of anything I did. Doc Just says, that totally sucks. I would be hurt too. Do you think maybe Greg was in charge of sending invites to his friends and forgot? Or it got lost in the mail? I had an invite get returned to me 1 month after I sent it, but thankfully I'd sent a save the dates, and sent my invite super early, so it ended up just being fine, but if I hadn't, then one of my cousins might have incorrectly thought that she was excluded. It sounds like Shannon, at least, thought that you were sent an invite if she was upset that you didn't RSVP. You actually did RSVP by texting Greg back, but it sounds like she thought that you had been sent an RSVP response card. OP says, yeah, it could just be a simple misunderstanding, but word seemed to get around early that I didn't get a save the date, and even later didn't get an invite either. Tracy especially seemed to make sure everybody was aware that she wasn't happy about my exclusion. The other friends I spoke to didn't even suggest that it could have been a mistake, almost like they knew something I didn't, but didn't feel comfortable saying it. Only one person ever spoke up on my behalf. Honestly, you have a gut feeling about this one, OP, and I would tend to say follow your gut. Follow what your instincts are telling you. To me, it really does appear like you were just left out, and now they're using it as an excuse to paint you as the bad guy, and you really were in a rock and a hard place. The fact that everyone is taking their side and ghosting you just speaks volumes as to, the content of these people's characters. Were they ever actually your friends if only Tracy is standing up for you? That's a very good question to ask yourself here, but I wouldn't expect this situation to blow over. It just sounds like inevitably you're going to lose this friend group and have to pick up the pieces with another group of people in the future. It really sucks, but you're not really an asshole for anything that's happened here. And now, onto the updates. I half took everyone's advice and brought it up with Tracy. She just confirmed that Shannon was full of shit when she asked me why she didn't get my RSVP and wanted to absolve herself of guilt. I'm not sure if they forgot, or if I just wasn't invited yet, but Tracy said that we'd talk about it more tonight when she gets out of work. Final update. I spoke about it in depth with Tracy. It turns out Greg's best man, someone who was never in the gang but grew up with Greg, always hated me, and Greg thinks I'm annoying. Shannon later felt bad they chose not to invite me and pressured him to invite me over text, knowing that I wouldn't be able to make it. Also, it wasn't only Tracy who thought that it was wrong that I didn't get an invite, and the chatter is what made Shannon ask me why I didn't RSVP, to make it seem like my invite was lost in the mail. It feels better knowing this because, like I said, they don't have to have people they don't want at their wedding, but knowing Greg doesn't like me effing hurts because I always thought we were friends. Turns out he's the phony. Unfortunately, everybody else, except for Tracy and a few others, like Greg more than me. So they kind of felt like they had to choose a side after Tracy and a few others, it turns out, brought up why I didn't get invited. Lots of people feel guilty about this apparently. They still felt like they had to choose a side for whatever reason. Probably because most of them went to high school with Greg. Oh well, that's life. Thanks for the advice about being more assertive. Those of you polite about it were very helpful. Thanks. Deleted says, yeah, you don't need those two-faced assholes in your life. Congratulations on finding out before they borrowed money from you. When they get divorced, you can reach out to Greg and tell him that he deserves it. OP replies, it's funny you bring up borrowing money, because they're the type who always want to split the check when they order the most expensive shit and always say, I'll get you back, and I don't trust Venmo, I'll just give you cash when I go to the ATM, and don't. On the plus side, I don't have to pay for part of their steak and lobster dinners anymore. Will OP invite Greg, Shannon, and the best man to his wedding? OP says, nah, I don't think it'd be right to force anybody to choose sides, because that feels inappropriate to do to friends. I think everybody who stood up for me gets an invite. Greg can have his best man and be the cynical bastards they are together. Honestly, nobody really likes the best man all that much because he's always acted like an obnoxious asshole when he's been around us. They can have each other. When told to talk to Greg directly and get it from the source, OP says, actually got confirmation and an apology from someone else. Not everybody was cool with it, but she's the only one who really has a spine and spoke up for me. Turns out, they effed up and caused all kinds of drama between people in the group. Some people wanted to keep me out of the loop so I wouldn't feel insulted. I kinda get it, but it just makes me appreciate Tracy more. Ray Rajan says, in this situation, you aren't the bad guy from my perspective, to be honest. A destination wedding is a dick move on your friend's part. The sheer inconvenience of one is like a dick move supreme, especially the fact they chose New York City. What the hell? Plus, some people turn into absolute assholes after marriage, and statistically speaking, your married male friend is going to be spending much time with his wife now than his friends. In some ways, marriage is like high school. You go to it with your friends for a little while, and then you start to drift away from one another by barely communicating. OP replies, Shannon is from up there and she wanted to be closer to her family. Yeah, turns out they didn't want me there and felt pressured once some of my friends realized. I guess it was easier to make the decision when it's just the two of them, and they lost confidence in the choice when people found out. Ray Rajan says, I feel it's best to just let the consequences of this affect them and just move on. And OP says, yeah, hopefully they learn from this and aren't such assholes in the future. I don't see Greg ever changing from the cynical and negative guy he is, but you never know. Dryad says, that shitty text really took it from, you don't have to invite anyone you don't have to you're a piece of shit. But I should mention actions have consequences, and that includes not inviting people. Your wedding does not exist in a vacuum. The text made me chuckle. Why didn't you RSVP? Anyone who ever planned a big event laughed at that. You contact everyone who couldn't be asked to RSVP to say, at the least, we didn't see your RSVP. Please let us know by tomorrow, otherwise we will assume that you can't make it, and we'll look forward to catching up later. Burnt Toast says, quote, but as usual, I didn't say this to her because I know how I would end up looking. I actually apologized for, I don't even know. As someone working on my own people-pleasing tendencies, it is absolutely excruciating to see people bend over backwards and apologize when they did nothing wrong. Same with the self-flagellating negative self-talk. Yeah, and that's why we have to just keep repeating stories like this in order to help people recognize their own people-pleasing tendencies and how to snap out of that. Because if you can see people repeating those mistakes and how they dealt with it, maybe, it can get through to people that have struggles, who knows. But regardless, I'm glad that OP is getting out of there. OP now realizes that there are in fact people in their camp, and they are not going to be alone in their own group of friends at their wedding. That's a huge positive to get out of this. It sucks to realize that Greg was such a phony the whole time and was being so fake, but hey, that's just how life is. There's a lot of people faking themselves out there. It's good to have him have the mask slip, to have OP miss out on the wedding as a result of the shitty actions of others is unfortunate, but the good news is that Greg hopefully can't keep hurting OP in the future, and they will have a stronger spine the next time something like this comes up. Thank you for sharing your story with us, OP. Our next post is by user Visible Broccoli, and it's titled, "Am I the asshole for breaking up with my fiancée for telling her best friend she was not engaged? My now ex-fiancée, 30 female, and I, male 27, got engaged 3 weeks ago. We've been dating for 5 years, and I finally got the money to give her the wedding she wanted. Well, 3 days ago, we were discussing our guest list, and I asked if she wanted to invite her best friend. Let's call him James, male 30. James lives in another state, but since they were friends for 10 years, I thought I could even pay for his travel expenses, since it'd be great to have her best friend at the wedding. She denied this, saying that it would take a lot of work to bring him over, and that she wanted this to be a family event. Countless times she mentioned that James was like family to her, so I insisted. She got annoyed and said, I didn't even tell him that we were engaged. That took me by surprise. I tried to ask why, but she started stonewalling me, and I left her alone. After a couple of hours, I tried to ask her again why she hadn't told him that we were engaged, and she still refused to tell me, and I admit, my insecurity got the better of me. In the past, James had confessed that he had feelings for her, which she turned down, and basically friend-zoned him. But the way that she told me, it always sounded like she had him as a backup, something not only me, but her exes also realized. She married him, quote-unquote, online. They always made their World of Warcraft characters look like a couple, like wearing the same transmogs and shit like that. And when she had a fight with her exes, he was always there for her, etc. I told her that made me uncomfortable, and if she was not planning to tell him, she might as well consider herself single, because I would not marry someone who couldn't be honest. Yes, I was pretty immature, but she did something even more immature. She texted him while showing me her phone something like, hey, just so you know, I was engaged, but not anymore, and sent it to him. I told her to pack her things and leave my house. Ever since she left, she's been calling me, but I refused to answer. My mum called me because she apparently called my mum and said that I was an asshole for ending things for such a ridiculous reason. So, am I the asshole? Miserable Most 1265 says, not the asshole. There is a reason she won't tell her best friend that she plans on getting married. I mean, most women think getting married is one of the biggest things in life and tells everyone she knows, unless it'll put a damper on something. You know, boyfriends hate hearing their girlfriend is getting married. That's crazy. Hey man, don't let your girlfriend stop you from finding your wife, okay? Wise Focus says, the night I proposed, I'm pretty sure that my wife was on the phone before I even heard a yes with as many people as she could think to call. Range Bob says, right? Mine was still naked when she started calling people. OK Ad says, lol, my husband and I had been to a friend's wedding earlier that day. Lying in bed watching TV later, he said, we should get married. He'd mentioned it before, but reneged, so I was like, yeah, right? Okay, sure. And he said, I'm gonna call my mom. I realized he was 100% serious this time. He is not a mama's boy, but that's how I knew he meant it. I waited until he called her and put her on speakerphone, and then I called people. 14 years together and 10 married, 1 child, so I get it. Done Over 69 position says, so your ex-fiancée didn't want to tell her boyfriend about you. Unless you're poly, sounds like a great reason to end an engagement. If you want to confirm that she was cheating, offer to meet up with her for lunch. When you get there, tell her if she wants any chance with you, she needs to unlock her phone and you read all of her messages between him and her on all media. I'm sure you'll find more than enough to confirm that leaving is the best choice. And Siren 2040 replies, even in a poly relationship, that is still messed up, lying and cheating. Polyamory requires honesty and transparency on each of the relationships. Done over 69 position replies, poly allows you to make rules based off of how you and your partner agree. I've known a couple of people who have had successful don't ask, don't tell polyamorous relationships. That is their choice and how they choose to be. That is the only time I could figure out how this could possibly be okay. That is why I put that exception. But some people who are poly don't accept don't ask, don't tell us a viable relationship, and to that I say, allow people to make their own choices on how they choose to be in a relationship, the same way that you would like people to allow you to choose. Personally, with my 16 years experience with polyamory, I prefer kitchen table polyamory, but I also accept that people have different things that work for them. And back to OP here, I don't blame you for breaking up with your fiancé. You know, it does sound like they were dating the both of you at the same time, and it's, in their head, a don't ask, don't tell situation, which is called cheating. I can empathize that you wanted to ignore the red flags, given that they should have changed, learning from their past mistakes, but it's obvious that they didn't, and they choose to obfuscate so many details from you. That is more than enough grounds for you to break up with that terrible, deceiving person. I'm sorry that they dragged you out this long. She deserves the worst for that. That is an inhuman thing to do, but, you know, what can you do now besides move on? She's a piece of shit, you're not the asshole. And now, on to the updates. Hey guys, I just got home after talking to my still ex-fiancé, and since a lot of people asked for an update, here it is. But I wanted to clarify a few things. As commented on my original post, I pay for the house since I bought it before dating her, and I asked her to move in since it was close to her job. I work from home since I'm in tech, but she had to go to work, and that's why I paid for her car to help her commute. And honestly, her salary is shit. I was her partner, so I didn't see any problem with that. I thought she was the one. Despite everything, she is smart, funny, we had chemistry, but I felt betrayed. To the updates. We met at a coffee shop on the premise that we would discuss how to save our relationship. At least that's what she thought. As soon as we sat down, I asked to see their messages. She got defensive immediately and told me she had deleted everything. I asked to see her phone anyway. She started to cry, ugly cry, asking me to stop. At that point, I had already decided that I was not going to be a part of the relationship anymore, but damn, I was curious. It took a good 20 minutes for her to hand me her phone, a lot of crying, and even a waitress asking her if she was okay. So, I read the messages. There wasn't any cheating like nudes being exchanged, them professing their love for each other, but what I read still stung. There was a lot of shit talking about me. A lot. Texts and texts of them saying how terrible of a person I was, criticizing my hobbies. I like video games and pro wrestling. Saying I wasn't a real man because of them, and stuff like that. But there were two topics that caught my eye. One where she had told him that I was having trouble getting hard, and that was frustrating for her, and one where she was complaining about how she didn't want to be stuck in our relationship. Yes, I was having problems in bed, because I was sad because my father had passed away 6 months ago, and this stuck thing, I remember telling her that when we got married, if she wanted, she could leave her job, and I would provide for the both of us. I don't know if she took this the wrong way, but I guess it was related to that. I honestly don't know. By the time I gave her the phone back, she was already giving excuses on why she was saying those things to him, like how he was like a therapist for her, and then she asked me, "Don't you complain about me to your friends?" And I simply replied, "No, I don't." She started crying again. I took a deep breath and just said, "Just give me the ring back." I didn't have the ring with me like some suggested. She hesitated a bit, but gave it to me anyway. I stood up and asked her to delete my number and to not bother me anymore. I called her mum and asked her to pick up her daughter's stuff at my place. Her mum's a good person. I'm just realizing that I'm going to miss her as I write this. She understood why I decided to end it, but she didn't ask much, and to be honest, I'm glad she didn't. As for my mum, I didn't call her. I just blocked her for things unrelated to this post. I just realized she never had my back in anything. I was always trying to save an already failed mum-son relationship. Before I leave, I just want to clarify, I was never against her having male friends or any type of friends. People are gonna cheat, friends or no friends. I remember my dad saying something to me when I was a teenager. He always said, "Opportunity makes the thief." But I do not agree with that. Anyway, since I have the next 2 weeks off work, I'm gonna go figure out what to do with the wedding money, drink some booze, play games, and watch Monday Night Raw later. Peace. Edits. A couple of people are asking me about the car. It's a 2015 Nissan Versa, which she crashed 2 times. Both times, she rear-ended someone. I never liked the car. Weak engine. The interior feels cheap and overall bad, so for all I care, she can keep that piece of shit. I would have more luck throwing it off a cliff than selling it. Edit 2. Little update. Her mum called me a few hours ago to check up on me and to ask when she could come and pick up her ex's stuff. We spoke about the car and she basically forbid me to let her daughter keep the car because 1, I paid for it, and 2, X wouldn't be able to maintain it, so I'm gonna keep the car until I'm able to sell it. God help me. Also, some people called the story fake because they say that I wasn't a real man for playing games, and yet they played World of Warcraft. To be honest, that's on me because I wasn't very clear. The real man thing was more about the pro wrestling hobby than the gaming hobby, but in some messages they clearly mocked me for playing some games, like the Life is Strange series. In one, I remember James saying something like, "How could a grown-ass man play such a girly game and cry?" Yes, I cried playing Life is Strange. I also cried to Red Dead Redemption 2. The I'm afraid cutscene still makes me emotional. I'm a crybaby, I guess. Also, I want to thank everyone who messaged me to talk about wrestling and games. It really helped me take my mind out of everything. I haven't replied to everyone, but I intend to. If anything happens, I'll let you guys know. Be good, people. In the comments, Dretton9 says, James says you're not a real man because you play video games, while simultaneously creating his WoW character to match a girl who smacked him into the friendzone/backup plan option is galactic levels of cuck-fueled irony. OP, you gave your time, effort, and money to someone who didn't deserve it. It's unfortunate, but it can happen. Take some time to heal and become the best version of yourself. All the best. T. Fuentex says, quote, is galactic levels of cuck-fueled irony. Ouch. That was nicely done. This girl seems to be playing with 2 nice guys, probably more than that. Her ATM and her friend-zoned cuck. Dodged the ballistic missile. She didn't want to be stuck with you and then cry for a marriage that she doesn't want. Oh, but she's going to miss the wedding. That's what she wanted. Let's see if her best friend/boyfriend can provide her with one. Ah, man. There are 4 billion women on this planet. Be patient. Yours will find her way to you, but not this piece of shit. And now, on to the final updates. Hey guys, it's been a couple of days since I used this account to tell my story, and something's happened, but this is a positive update. First, I want to say thank you to everyone who reached out of my DMs and commented saying nice things. It felt really good and I appreciate y'all. Some of you actually made me tear up with your kind messages. Second, I saw my 2 previous posts were in a YouTube video of a guy who reads Reddit posts, and my update was on r/best of Redditor updates, a subreddit I read a lot, and that caught me off guard. But I want to express my gratitude for everyone who gave me advice, told their own story, or just told me that I was a cool guy. Reading your messages before writing this felt amazing. I also want to say that I thought about my engagement a lot, and I have no regrets whatsoever. Yeah, things ended badly and she was not a good person to me at the end, but I just don't hate her, nor do I wish for her to fail. We had good moments, I felt happy with her, and again I really thought she was the one. Feeling hatred was going to harm me more than her. To the update, her mom came to pick up her stuff and we talked for hours. It felt like therapy. I cried on her shoulders, we laughed, she expressed how much I meant to her family and that I would always be welcome in her home. It felt so good to hear her say those things to me. Before she left, she asked me if I wanted to ask about my ex. I got curious and asked how she was doing. Her words were, "She's trying to act stoic, but I know my daughter. She's not taking this well." And I left it at that. She gave me a hug and left. About the car, I'm going to donate it and get a tax write-off. But to the thing that I'm excited about is that I'm going to Royal Rumble. I never even watched Raw or SmackDown live, but now that I have the extra cash, I'm going to treat myself. Again, thank you all for reaching out. Sorry to the people who love drama that this update doesn't have an unwanted pregnancy, a fight, chaos, or a plot twist. The truth is that my life is just really, really boring. Be kind, people. Kitty Miley says, "It's great to hear that you're doing better. Enjoy Royal Rumble and keep taking care of yourself. You deserve some fun after everything." Stigley says, "Your ex realizes she had a good thing and blew it by trying to hedge her bets with her best friend. Her mum knows that she blew a good thing too." This is the best conclusion you could have hoped for. Hate-free healing. Good for you, OP. All the best and continue on this path of being your own best friend. Puzzleheaded says, "That's a good update. He's better off. I'm glad OP is happier, and hopefully he finds a healthier relationship in the future. Until then, enjoy the WWE match and newfound freedom." And Ankit1000 says, "I don't understand why so many people think it's alright to bitch about your partners to other people. I mean, if you don't like them, then why the hell are you with them?" I think we see that a lot with married couples where it's just easier to stay with someone even if you don't like them, because breaking up with them, albeit it is the right thing to do, for some or for many people it seems like it's just too much effort. It's too much physical effort, too much emotional burden, too much financial cost. Man, look at all the time that I'd waste going to find someone that I actually respect when I could just sit on my laurels and save money and time. For what reason? I don't know, but yeah, she was hedging her bets with her boyfriend and her soon-to-be husband, and it's good that she's getting the comeuppance she deserves. Maybe this time that she got burnt again, she'll learn her lesson, but at this point I highly doubt it. She's gonna be stuck with this, orbiter little boyfriend that she's got going on, and she's gonna be unhappy, it seems like, and maybe she deserves to be unhappy for the pain that she's caused OP and others before him. Anyway, thank you for sharing the story with us, OP. I'm glad that you're out of there, glad you're getting a tax write-off, and like everyone else said, hope you enjoy the WWE. Am I the asshole here for telling my cheating wife a day before our daughter's graduation that I would be divorcing her? My wife and I have been married for 20 years, and we have a daughter who is 18. She graduated high school a few months ago. Around 6 years ago, I found out that my wife was cheating on me and having an affair which lasted for a couple of months. I really wanted to divorce, but my wife was remorseful. She quit her job, she started going to therapy, she promised all reconciliation steps that I asked for, and ultimately I did decide to stay with my wife for her sake and for our family's sake too. For around 5 years, everything was actually going great, and we had date nights, romantic vacations, and we really loved each other. However, on the 6th year, the whole thing resurfaced back in my mind, and I just couldn't get my mind off it. I finally made my decision after a particular line from my sister struck a chord with me. She said, "Would you really want to use the gift of life and spend it with someone who had betrayed you so badly?" She told me this a couple of days before my daughter's graduation, and that is when I finally decided that I couldn't do it anymore. A day before my daughter's graduation, I informed my wife of my decision and told her that I would be filing for divorce soon. My wife was shocked, and she cried a lot, and she told me that she would do anything. But I told her that my decision was final. My daughter's graduation in itself was great, and I was really proud of my daughter, and my wife seemed happy too, but my daughter could sense that something was wrong and asked me why her mum seemed down and trying to fake a smile. I told her not to worry about it and to just enjoy the day. The next day, however, I told my daughter that I would be filing for divorce, and my daughter seemed shocked. She said how I could do this to her mum before graduation, and that's why her mum couldn't enjoy the graduation. I told her it's none of her business, but we'll always both love her regardless. My wife and I are now going through divorce proceedings. Am I the asshole here? Radiant Cherry says, I get that it's tough, but the timing was terrible. Your daughter deserves joyful memories, not family chaos on her graduation day. She'll remember this forever. Kurosaki says, then told that it was none of her business? Yikes. Raymiro says, yeah, it's definitely her business. Another goddess says, could have done it the day after. Sweet Fancy says, quote, I told her it's none of her business, but we'll both always love her regardless. If OP really had the daughter's best interests at heart, he could have waited some more rather than have the graduation marred with this news. You stayed married for this long, you could have waited some more. And Gravy Train says, you are absolutely within your right to end your relationship for whatever reason you have. That doesn't make you an asshole. What does make you an absolute asshole is how you chose to do it. Your complete lack of empathy and thought about timing your announcement, even if just for the sake of your daughter. Your wife ruined your relationship 6 years ago, you ruined your daughter's high school graduation day. She's not going to ever graduate from high school ever again. You forever tainted this moment for her. Like others have said, you waited 6 years already. What would another few days have been? This was completely selfish, no consideration for anyone else. I came into this thinking like, yeah, maybe he's not so much of an asshole because it's, his decision to break up the relationship. He can choose to do it however he wants. But then I remember my own graduation from school, and all I remember is interpersonal drama within the family. So for me, I'm very much in the daughter's shoes there, because when I think about my graduation, the first thing I think about is that drama that ruined the graduation for me. I don't actually think about the graduation itself, that there was no good memories that overshadow the negative emotions that I have tied to my own drama within my graduation. And now that I think about it personally, every time I think back to the graduation over the years, that's what I remember first. So I'm absolutely on the daughter's side here. This father has ruined the graduation and the memory that is supposed to be a positive and, evolutionary one. I'm evolving from high school into the adult world. You have stolen that memory from me because it's always going to be about you instead of me, when it should be about me. So as Gravy Train said, yes, you are absolutely within your right to end the relationship for whatever reason you have, but he is absolutely an asshole for making this day about him and doing the breakup on the graduation day. You couldn't wait? I just genuinely don't understand why some people have to take over days that are supposed to be about us. Can you not chill out and do it another time that we can all forget about? Yes, you're the asshole. And now, onto the updates. So my daughter called me last night and told me she came across the post I had posted, and after reading my comments, she asked how I could be so cruel to her mum. She then told me she was going to temporarily go low contact with me. I did tell her I know she's going through a lot, and I'll always be there for her, but I'll respect her decision to go low contact. So that's really not the best news, but life does move on. Holy shit, you didn't even say sorry. There was no acknowledgement of your wrongdoing. You're a piece of shit, OP. One Original One says, man, I just don't understand how this dumpster fire keeps burning. He says as he continues to pour gasoline on it. Big Alternative says, this is Exhibit A in how not to handle this situation. You successfully made your cheating wife the victim and gave your daughter every reason to hate you. The Final Filter says, I made a similar comment on the original post. If he can't get past the cheating, he should have divorced his wife, but waiting until right before his daughter's graduation was not the time to let his wife know. Cherry Plum says, we've an idiom in Hindi. It translates to, strike your own foot with an axe. And if OP ain't the biggest example, like created a problem out of nowhere. Well, there's your update, guys. What an update that was. Some people just don't love taking accountability for their own actions. Let me know just how pleased you are with that update down in the comments. Thank you very much, guys. I would love to hear your feedback. Our next post is by user GoldVeterinarian83, and it's titled, I've been sick for a month, and my mum won't take me to a doctor. Am I the jerk for putting my foot down? I, 18 female, started to get what I thought was the cold or flu around the end of September. I was coughing, sneezing, and my eyes were watering, the whole 9 yards. I didn't think much of it since I normally feel a bit shitty when the seasons change, and this was right around the time that everyone was getting sick. A week into October, my symptoms were getting worse. I started coughing so much to the point that it would trigger my gag reflex, and then I started to having trouble keeping food down. Since I work in customer service, I had one hell of a time talking to people. Every 3 words, I would start coughing uncontrollably, and no amount of tea could help. 3 weeks in, I started to develop a light fever. Nothing too crazy, but I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. Tossing and turning in bed would disrupt the phlegm and mucus in my throat, and I would end up coughing so much that I had to spend most of the night hunched over the toilet until all the mucus came up and I felt good enough to go back to bed. Now it's been 4 weeks. Gagging in the bathroom over the toilet is a daily occurrence. I still can't sleep properly. I am running out of breath and coughing when I'm just walking to my bus stop or up a few flights of stairs, and I haven't been able to eat anything of sustainable food in 2 days. My mum refuses to take me to see a doctor and is convinced I just have a cold. We do not have a family doctor, she will not give me the updated health card, and she will not let anyone take me to a doctor or a walk-in clinic. She has ignored me before when it came to health problems that I've had, such as my esophagus being ripped open from pure force of me throwing up for 2 weeks, and completely forgot the fact that the doctor said that if we had waited an hour, which she originally wanted to do, they would have had to shove a tube down my throat, and I would have had an infection. She has completely ignored and denied a nurse, saying that I need a knee brace when I smacked my knee so hard on a rock during a hike that it shattered the cartilage in my kneecap. She ended up slapping a compression bandage on it and complained when I was still hobbling around 2 weeks later and said I was overreacting. I had a bit of pillow fluff stuck in my ear, and it took her 3 years to take me to get it checked out and cleaned. It took her so long that both my ears developed a really bad skin infection, and I had to take a butt ton of medication and eardrops to fix it. Fun times. Tonight, I finally put my foot down and told her directly that if she didn't take me to see a doctor within this week, I'm going to find a way to take myself there. She started crying, saying how could I go against her better judgments, and asked how I could possibly believe all of my coworkers, teachers, and peers who were telling me to go see a doctor over my own mother. I tried to talk over her, saying how I'd been sick for almost a month, and that even if it was just a cold, it wouldn't hurt to get it checked anyway. I started coughing a lot, and she kept telling me to be quiet, and the reason why I'm still sick is because I won't shut my damn mouth. So am I the jerk? Cerulean Fruit Snacks says, not the jerk. Go to an ER. You sound very sick and your mother is delusional. What she is doing is neglectful of your health and it needs to change. Tell the staff of the ER that you don't have your documents because your mother has refused to take you for treatment. Screamy Sashimi says, yes, 100% this. After you are recovered, it would also be good to try to make a plan to obtain your own health insurance now that you're an adult. Also, I mean this in a, it doesn't sound like your mother is reliable way, not in a, no one wants to work type of way. Only One True King says, yeah, the mum needs professional help. Actually, something that concerns me with this. What if mum doesn't want OP to get better for some twisted reason? Obsessive says, since you were 18, you need to get a copy of your birth certificate, passport if you have one, insurance card. Keep all of your important documents. If you are working, get a bank account in your name only. This past behavior on your mother's part is neglect turned into abuse. Save up and move out as soon as possible. She has some mental issues and needs help. She's trying to guilt you and manipulate you. OP replies, she will not give me any of my personal documents, saying that I am not responsible enough. I think I might be able to get my health card number through my school and might be able to work something out. Puzzleheaded replies, it is illegal for her to keep your documents. Call the police. I get that your mum refuses to take you to hospital, OP, but I don't know. 4 weeks of what sounds like a chest infection turning into something deadly. I'd be taking an Uber to the nearest hospital if I were you, but even then, you know, we're always gonna go on about the healthcare system in America. It just sounds like your mum's trying to kill you so she can get a life insurance claim off of you. Not good. You need to cut the apron strings and run. She is a dangerous person at minimum. And now on to the update. Sorry for the late update. My friend took me to the hospital during school, and I do have pneumonia. I've been at the hospital for a few hours now, and my mum was made aware of where I went. She showed up to my room crying, saying, "Oh, my baby," and other bullshit pretending to care. She gladly gave over my health card and other documents to the doctors, and she's acting as if nothing happened and she's just a worried mother. I told the doctor my past medical history and what my mum has done, and I'll probably be staying at the hospital overnight, but luckily they said that it wasn't life-threatening yet, and I will make a full recovery in a few weeks. The doctor gave me my health card when my mum left for a bit, and it's in a bag with all of my stuff under the chair. I keep pretending to sleep so my mum doesn't come into my room as often, and the doctor told me that she will have to leave after visiting hours anyway, unless I specifically tell them that I want her to stay. I will be okay, thank God, but this was really scary taking initiative against my mum's wishes. I had to do something similar a few years ago when I had to leave my physically abusive father when I was 14. Thank you to the people encouraging me to go and giving me support. I think everything is under control now. As for leaving my mum's house, I think I'll just need to wait until I've saved up enough money to get an apartment with one of my friends, but I can worry about that after I've recovered. Covis says, medical neglect is awful. It leaves deep scars, both psychological and physical. It's been over a decade since my parents did that to me, and I still have a lot of health issues because of it. I'm glad that OP will be okay, and I really hope they can escape their mum soon. Good Focus says, my mum would do that throughout my childhood. I effing hate her, and now she has the audacity to belittle my symptoms like, well, you never had asthma as a child. I did, Ma. You just never bothered to take me to the doctor. Let's Begin with Fritos says, everyone was surprised that I had asthma as an adult. Looking back, I had all of the signs. Granted, the asthma was not severe. My mum was like that too. I got my medical files, and I come to find out that my mother painted me as a faker, a malingerer to the family doctor. I got great medical care as an adult by never showing those childhood files. Some people should not have kids. I also had a severe injury and needed extra help as a teen. Nope. It's sad. Whatever her reasons, I'll never understand. Once you have your own kids, you realize it's just not that hard to love your kids. And that's one that I always see online as well. You see that on Twitter all the time where it's like, I don't understand how my parents could scream at me all the time for not knowing about things when I literally didn't know anything about the world as a child. Yeah, I agree. Some people genuinely should not have kids. Anyone see that TikTok lately that's going around with that mum that's renting a one-bedroom apartment with her husband? And they're a family of 6. The mum and the husband sleep in the bedroom. She makes the other 4 kids sleeping the kitchen/living room, and she has more on the way. Like, I'm sure we can all make excuses for people like that, but that's abuse. There's laws against things like that, especially in rentals. She, in my opinion, should not be having more kids, and yet people like this continue to exist in the world. It really baffles my mind. It goes against all comprehension, and it's not going to stop. And that makes me really sad. So let's all collectively drown our sorrows out by more Reddit stories. But also to OP, I'm so sorry that this happened to you. I'm glad you finally got your documents and you can advocate for yourself more. You know, it's good that Reddit helps you realize just how bad the abuse you suffered from your mother was, and hopefully you have more strategies to combat her in the future and advocate for yourself more. Can't change the past, but we sure as hell can navigate the future more successfully. Thank you for sharing your story with us. I wish you nothing but the best going forward. Our next post is by user Goldwind5888, and it's titled, Am I the arsehole here for crying when my boyfriend let his best friend's wife alter the dish that I made for dinner? So my boyfriend, 28 male, and I, 22 female, met at work 2 years ago. Technically, I was working part-time during undergrad and he was a customer, but after a couple of months, we started going out. I really love this man and nothing has happened on this scale before, so I'm very confused about it. My boyfriend has a very tight group of friends. I am well acquainted with them and their girlfriends. One of them, Dave, just married Ellie. Fake names. Ellie is an excellent cook and often hosts dinners, and everyone brings a dessert to those dinners. I am the youngest in the group, so most times they brush off my requests for contributing or bringing in a dessert. However, the last time I asked Dave and Ellie if they wanted anything extra, like wine or some sweet dish for dinner, they said I could bring one of those sweet dishes I make for my boyfriend. I'm Indian, and even though I can't cook as well as my mum, and I'm, well, in a different country for studies, I called my mum up and had her teach me properly how to make a specific Bengali sweet, which is my favorite. I had my friends taste it, and they said that it was great. My boyfriend ate some, and he said that it was excellent. Except last night, I greeted Ellie and kept the dish in the kitchen. When the food was brought out, and my boyfriend told everyone that I made it, I saw that someone had added cinnamon powder to the sweet. You never have the sweet with cinnamon powder. The dessert tasted like cinnamon, and I felt horrible. Though everyone said thank you and it was good, I think my face gave it away, and my boyfriend took me aside and said that Ellie had told him that my sweet looked too white, and thought cinnamon might bring some color into it. I don't know, I just felt awful and I started to tear up. My boyfriend then defended Ellie and said that his friends already think I'm a child and not to make a big deal of this and that we will talk about it. I told him Ellie asked him first, couldn't he have told her not to add cinnamon to the sweet? He told me he didn't think that it was a big deal and asked me to drop the topic on the way home. I didn't text him goodnight, and this morning he said he was sorry and said my crying made him feel like an awful person. I don't know, now I think I overreacted. Am I the asshole? This is just emotional manipulation central. So he doesn't defend you to his friends ever, like a story that we covered not too long ago. When it comes to an impasse, he takes their side and then blames you for something that someone else did that he was supposed to stop and be like, hey, yo, you're gonna ruin this shit. Actually, now that you've ruined it, let's let her take the responsibility for this one, because my girlfriend is a terrible person. He downplays it by saying that it wasn't a big deal, even though no one at that party respects you now because they think that you can't cook, that you're a child, and that they don't respect your presence. And now he was sorry and your crying made him feel like an awful person, not his actions and the way that it reflects on you now. None of that makes him feel like an awful person. Just the fact that you cried in response to the shit that he did, that makes you an awful person. Right. So you should just be a doormat and just take everything and not have an emotional reaction to things like a human would have. Yup, cool. Normal behavior from his behalf. He is conditioning you for abuse, OP. You need to cut your shit and run. Get away from him. Vegetable Business says, boyfriend saying everyone thinks you're a child, and him saying we'll talk about this later, is him telling you he thinks you're a child. Girl, tell him you're tired of hanging out with judgmental old farts, and you're gonna go find people younger and cooler to be with. Please don't think this guy hung the moon. Flashy Blue Jay says, yes, the correct response to being told everyone thinks you're a child is to pack up any belongings you have left at his house and move on. Please leave this controlling, manipulating, and rude man. And in any case, it was extremely rude of the hostess to alter your desserts. You went out of your way to make an authentic Indian dessert that probably many people there have not had before, and the hostess completely changed the flavor profile. Not cool. You have every right to be upset. I mean, if it was flavored with cardamom or rose, the cinnamon would completely ruin it. Billy Mack actually says, and why did she ask his permission to alter your dish? That is the rudest, most patronizing thing I've ever heard. OP, get away from these awful people. Wieldy Mouse says, why did she ask OP to bring a dish at all? She specifically asked OP to bring the dessert that OP makes for her boyfriend. Why ask for it and then alter it? And Just Me Raw replies, to put her in her place. To a now deleted comment, OP says, thank you. By the way, it was Rosgolla. I even had my mum ask our local sweet shop what quantity they used for the sizes of Rosgolla. I had managed to make the sweet taste a lot like the one from the sweet shop, so that's why I was so upset. If it tasted bad, I wouldn't have cried. Another commenter says, actually, you should have asked right at the table why is there cinnamon added to your dessert. Not in a shout or complain way to make a scene, but to make it clear that your dessert was spoiled and your contribution was pretty much sabotaged. Don't cover other people's F-ups. It is on them, not you. And OP says, I didn't want to embarrass Ellie or my boyfriend. Plus, I didn't know who added the cinnamon during dinner, and I was too upset to even talk. So your boyfriend doesn't defend you and apparently all his friends think you're a child, which he also doesn't defend you against? He's also got 6 years on you. Dude's nearing 30. Does your boyfriend often treat you like a child? Does your boyfriend usually defend his friends when they do some F shit like this? Does your boyfriend defend you at all? He should feel like an awful person. He is an awful boyfriend. OP says, I usually just hang around my boyfriend's friends during these dinners. I admit I feel a little left out because they've all been friends for so long and I'm from a different culture, but they've never said any outright offensive thing to me. My boyfriend doesn't treat me like a child. He mentioned before that due to my age, his friends see me like a much younger sister, so I guess that's why he said it. I don't know, I'm kind of rethinking his words. Another commenter says, you should really let your aunt have a round with your boyfriend. In Bengal, we don't have girlfriends or housewives, we have queens of the house. He needs to understand the Bengali household hierarchy. And OP replies, there is no way am I going to tell this to my ma. She already has reservations about my boyfriend due to the age gap and the fact that he is not Bengali. But thank you, your comment cracked me up. In response to a lighter comment, OP says, I know. I was horrified and I had to eat it and act like nothing happened at the dinner table to not cause a scene. Traumatized by cinnamon rosgolla was not on my bingo card this year. Back up to the post, there is a mini update. Ellie saw this post. My boyfriend texted me to see if it was me and I said yes. He said we needed to talk and for safety purposes, my best friend will be there. I don't know, I never expected my post to blow up. And now on to the actual updates. He said he needed space from the relationship. I think with the way the post blew up and what happened because of a post, I should clear up some things. I never asked if I should leave my boyfriend for this. I asked if this was an overreaction, my crying. But having thousands of people telling me that this was racially charged, Ellie wanted power, my boyfriend is shitty, etc., my brain went haywire. Boyfriend called yesterday, and when I got there, his house, with my best friend, Dave and Ellie were there too. Ellie was crying, and Dave looked really pissed at me. My boyfriend told me to sit down, and Dave started with how could I make a post that most of the people in the dinner party would recognize and know, and could shame Ellie and my boyfriend. My boyfriend was silent, and wouldn't even look at me, and was only shaking his head. It felt like I was a kid being scolded by my parents with my elder sibling disappointed in my actions. That is what I felt, and it looked. I admit, it was very spineless of me, but Dave went on for like a minute, and I was just looking at my boyfriend waiting for him to defend me. I asked Ellie why she would alter my dish after telling me to bring an Indian dish. She said that she thought Indian food would be brown. So racist. This woman has more Indian friends than me, and she thinks Indian food is brown. She grew up in the UK for Christ's sake, and I felt so defeated. The comments, my friends, and people around me telling me that his friends came first to him, not me. He said he didn't think the sweet was a big deal. I told him that I would never let my friends alter something he spent 3 days learning, getting people to taste, and got his mum involved in, and he saw that I put a lot of effort into it, so why let her alter it? Why couldn't he ask me? Ellie started to cry, saying that she wasn't being racist, and she wouldn't know that I put effort into it, and now she couldn't host dinners again. I said I used fake names, so why does it matter, unless she and Dave went around telling people? Boyfriend told me he didn't expect this from me. My best friend piped up that he expected that my boyfriend would have an effing spine, so I guess they were both disappointed. My, I guess now ex-boyfriend, told me in front of Dave and Ellie that he needs some space. I told him to get lost. I don't know what my best friend said to him after that, considering I left my boyfriend's flat. I kind of just tripped into the metro station. So now I'm crying on my best friend's couch with an ice pack while his boyfriend keeps giving me peach schnapps and my relationship has toppled over. I wouldn't have stormed out had he looked at me once. He just looked 100% on Dave and Ellie's side and acted like I was the one with the problem when she caused me hurt. If his friends come first when they cause me hurt, where would have I been if I decided to marry this man? My friends are good to me and acting like I'm some fragile glass. I even heard my best friend and his brother whispering loudly from the kitchen and his elder brother wanting to threaten him via Insta DMs. I hate that it has come to this, considering I've always been the mum friend to my friend group. I'm drunk while writing this, so have some grace in the comments. Also, if you'll be an incel like those people in my DMs, telling me I'll never keep a man if I'm this dramatic, please go away. I just thought that I needed to update. That's it. Thanks, guys. Edit. Guys, this is my first time that I've faced what y'all have been calling racism. To be honest, I didn't see Ellie putting cinnamon into my rosgola as racism. I was just hurt that my days of hard work had been ruined, and that's it. I understand that I need to work on my self-esteem and not let people walk over me. My best friend's elder brother, he's a doctor and is super pissed at my ex right now because he didn't know what happened, booked an appointment with a therapist he knows, as he thinks that I need mental help to not normalize aggressive behavior. I'm sorry for ranting on Reddit, but I guess that's where I am. Both my best friend and I will be going. He had been there for some time before, and the situation is tense at home because Dada, Bestie's brother, didn't know what was happening and tore my friends a new one for not protesting when Dave said shit to me. I still haven't told him that it was over a Reddit post and that I'm writing here. I feel awful, and I don't know how to tell my mum that she was right. I wish I never went out with him. One of my ex's friends from the dinner party asked me if I really left my ex over a dessert, so I guess that's what he told people. It hurts. I know it shouldn't, but it hurts. I think it's partially my fault. I shouldn't have let myself be treated like this. There were signs, and I ignored them, and now I think I'll never have another relationship because it feels like a horrible, anxious feeling. A commenter says, "The older brother, who is a doctor and is taking the time to make sure that your mental health is okay, sounds like he cares more about you than Dave or anyone at the birthday party." OP replies, "He does. And I never doubted that. He's also very mad at me for drinking too much, and at his brother for hiding the fact that my ex was an arsewipe. I actually am grateful to him and my best friend for being a very strong support system." Another commenter says, "Completely unrelated thing by the way, brown rosagolas exist in India too. They are not as sweet as the white kind, so I prefer the white ones." And OP says, "I was thinking of making rosagolas. They are brown and tastier in my opinion. I think maybe if I had made them, this whole mess wouldn't have happened." Another commenter says, "I say date Dada or the best friend. Dada knows how to treat a woman and he seemed royally pissed at what happened to her, going as far as to get her therapy. I've had best friends and their family as mine before, and I know they have never gone that far to help me. Is it just me, or is it a little more than family to get so angry on her behalf and try to help her mental health?" And OP replies, "My best friend is gay and is very much in love with his boyfriend. That's the reason that he was in therapy for some time. He has faced homophobia in our home country and needed counseling. That's why his brother is overprotective of both of us." Where OP is from for those curious. I'm from West Bengal, but not Kolkata, though I have spent a couple of years of my childhood there. I am from a district that shares a border with Bangladesh, and both sets of my grandparents were from there. Am I the arsehole here for not going back to my wife after she threatened to call the cops on me? My wife and I have a 6-month-old, and since she came back from the hospital, she completely changed. Before that, we were the perfect couple, never once argued, had a happy life. Her hatred for me was radiated from her every time that I was with her. I am not someone who likes to argue, and after tolerating a lot, 2 days ago, I snapped. We had a very heated argument that resulted in a screaming match. That is when she threatened to call the cops on me. I was just shell-shocked, and she kept screaming and shouting.
When she had enough, she went to another room. I grabbed whatever I could think of and left. I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to go back. I hate my life. I lost everything. She wants me to come back and talk, but I am not going back ever. My mother-in-law came to me with my baby, and I refused to hold her because I knew if I did that, I would want to go back, and then my wife will call the cops on me. My mother-in-law wants me to just talk things out. She's making excuses for my wife. She's saying she never meant what she said, but I'm staying with my friend. He is supportive of me 100%, but he's saying that I am not being myself. I'm a little bit depressed because of all of this, but I am not crazy. Even my mother-in-law acknowledged that my wife did threaten to call the cops on me. There is no coming back from that, is there? H. Bernadette C. says, extreme personality change is a mental health emergency considering you have a helpless infant. Available Ask says, yes, PPD is real and sickness and health are in the vows usually. It's her first baby, and she doesn't even realize it probably. Translator Rod says, and so what? If he does get falsely accused and ends up having his life ruined, at least he fulfilled his vows? Consistent Cheesecake says, well, you can't just abandon your child. It sounds like your wife might be having some kind of breakdown, like postpartum psychosis or something. If she's begging you to come home, is she willing to see a doctor? And Temporary Storm says, you say your wife isn't herself. Your friends say that you are not yourself. I think you both need to see doctors. You both need to be your best selves for your daughter, and it sounds like neither of you are in the mental space that you need to be to function, let alone raise your baby. Please, for your daughter's sake, what you've expressed here indicates that you are both seriously struggling. Please seek help. It's more common than you'd think, both for new moms and dads. Don't wait. This is serious stuff. Yeah, this is a pretty serious situation from the sounds of it. Both of these people's mental health is in the dumps. Whether they actually get help or just ignore the problem and continue to function, I'd say continuing to function and ignoring the problem is more common in real life. I don't like that, but I can understand why people do it. But the admirable thing for both of them will be to get help and fix themselves so they don't dump all that bullshit on their newborn who doesn't deserve that. Though to me, that relationship is donezo. Amicable co-parenting is the way forward for these guys. And now on to the update, titled, I ate a chocolate bar today for the first time in months. I stopped being able to eat solid food a few months ago after my depression started. I was finally able to eat a chocolate bar. It took me 15 minutes, but I finished it. I did it. St. Louis Bagels says, stupid question. Is a chocolate bar solid food? It melts in your mouth fairly easily. OP says, it had peanuts in it. Bus says, that's awesome. Way to make that step. Every step you take will bring you more confidence and help you in the long run. Keep it up. We believe in you. And now on to the final update. I did talk to her on the phone, and she can't seem to comprehend why I was so upset that she threatened to call the cops on me. It was like she couldn't wrap her head around the gravity of what she has done. She did apologize, but she still thinks I overreacted. As soon as I left, my eating disorder vanished. Then when I talked to her on the phone, the depression started settling again. I have filed for divorce. I have no clue what the divorce will look like, but one thing I know is that I will never feel safe with my wife again. Ever. Divorce is the right thing to do for the both of us. No Personality says, don't talk to her on the phone or in person without a lawyer present. Text her or email her that all communication must be through a lawyer going forward. She was already ready to make up shit to the cops about you, which means that she was full on ready to ruin your life. Don't give her the chance to make shit up with no witnesses present to point out that she is full of shit. Agree, text only. But be cautious of what you text, and take screenshots of every conversation. Sensuous Rika says, basically, threatening to call the cops during an argument, especially when no one's getting hurt or in actual danger, is a really bad move. It's like using the police as a weapon, and it can have some seriously messed up consequences for the person on the receiving end of that threat. What Happened Monday says, not the asshole. Tell mother-in-law that her daughter needs counseling and perhaps medical treatment for PPD, and until that happens, you are in danger from her. You might also express the child might be in danger also, and try to get emergency custody for either yourself or your mother-in-law. Do not make any promises of reconciliation, and never be alone with your wife. I'm sorry that you're experiencing this, OP. I'm also sorry for your wife, as she is obviously suffering from some form of mental illness at the moment. However, you need to protect yourself first and foremost. And I'm Not Creepy 3 says, quote, I did talk to her on the phone, and she can't seem to comprehend why I was so upset that she threatened to call the cops on me. It was like she couldn't wrap her head around the gravity of what she has done. She did apologize, but she still thinks that I overreacted. The worst kind of apology is someone saying they're sorry, but in the same breath tells you that you are overreacting. You can't claim that you were genuinely sorry for your actions and how it affected someone if you're also downplaying what you did and its impact. That being said, I hope OP's wife gets the help she needs, because PPD is no joke, and I wish the best for OP and their child. This whole situation is sad. And OP also mentions that he doesn't want to go back to jail again. I feel like there will always be a bias against him now from the cops, because they're like, well, he was a danger in the past. He's obviously the problem in this situation, and not the PPD mother. Even if big old red flags are waving in their face, I don't feel like they can separate that previous jail term from his current actions and the danger that she poses to the child. Also, yeah, she's absolutely downplaying her impact here. It appears that she doesn't think that she's done anything wrong. Neither of these people have gotten medical help or mental help at all. Very sad situation all around. I do hope that OP listens to everyone here and does get the help that they so desperately need, and they start working towards a brighter future for themselves and their child, but that remains to be seen. Will they come back in the future? Who knows? But regardless, thank you for sharing your story with us, OP. Best of luck going forward. What do you guys think about this one, though? Let me know down in the comments below. Our next post is by user AggravatingScar7518, titled, Am I the asshole for refusing to let my mother-in-law redecorate our nursery? So I, 26 female, am currently 32 weeks pregnant with mine and my husband Felix's, 27 male, first child. Things have been going well, and one of the great things is that Felix is a builder, and so everything with the nursery went pretty smoothly, pretty fast. We agreed at the start what kind of vibe we wanted to go with, and it's pretty much already done. Figured that we'd get it sorted as soon as possible, so it wasn't another thing to worry about later. My mother-in-law has always been a bit of a nightmare, but has been better since the news that I'm pregnant, though not without issue. For example, she told me that I should lose some weight and that it wasn't healthy for me or the baby. She knows that I used to struggle with anorexia, and I'm not any sort of unhealthy weight. In the past, I've kept my mouth shut and let Phoenix deal with her. As the nursery has almost been completed, she's suddenly decided to invite herself around more. I work from home currently. She comes in on the regular, asks me when I'm going to have lunch, and, oh, could you just pop me something in too? And then we'll wander into the nursery and start rearranging things. I know this sounds stupid, but once she literally bought an IKEA bag full of stuff that she put in there. It doesn't match, but I never said anything really beyond, oh, thanks so much for the thought, etc. Yesterday, when she came around uninvited, she looked me up and down and said, really? Joggers? Thank God Felix isn't here. And then walked into the nursery and started asking me where the pillow that she'd put in the crib had gone, why I'd taken out the fairy lights hanging on the wall right by it, etc. I explained that they were potential safety hazards to future baby and that I had taken them out. She started with, oh, well, I've had 3 children, and I really think that you should take more of my advice. And then looked me in the eyes and said, you're really not going to be a good mother at this rate. I don't know if it was the pregnancy hormones, but I just stared at her for a moment and then told her to get out of the house. I'd been up all night and had loads of work and just wasn't in the mood. She got very uptight about it and then left. Felix says he's going to go talk to her and tell her that she shouldn't be reorganizing anything without our permission. But I don't know if it was just the hormones and if I'm being unreasonable. Am I the asshole? No, she's a prissy piece of shit, that one. Oh my god. Oh, but I have 3 children. I think you should take my advice. I didn't kill my kids with my careless parenting in the past. Oh, you've educated yourself about raising kids and choking hazards? Well, I don't care because my kids didn't die when I raised them. That's what I'm hearing her saying. She's getting on my nerves as well. She's asking for a foot up her ass in a second. Those joggers would be... My joggers would send her into the stratosphere if I was in your situation, OP. You're not the asshole at all. She needs to watch her mouth. And it does sound like Felix is on your side here as well, which is another positive. Trick Delivery says, not the asshole. Felix needs to put down a lot more boundaries. No more popping by when he isn't around. She has asked him to come over and can only do so when he says yes and he is there. No more talking about your health or weight ever. No redecorating or moving anything in your house. I'm sure there needs to be more. This is to get you started with him. He needs to protect you and your child. Enfys May says, not the asshole. Felix needs to shut this down like yesterday. She's being openly disrespectful to you. She can no longer come over uninvited. She needs to call and schedule a visit like everyone else. Also, if she has a key to your home, change the locks. No more bringing unwanted items for the baby. While you appreciate the thought, you and Felix want to prepare the baby's room the way you want it. This is your baby. She had a chance to decorate how she wanted with her kids, and now it's your turn. No more passive-aggressive comments to or about you. If this isn't shut down, she will continue this around your child. She will talk badly about you around and to your child. This is disrespectful to you and should immediately be stopped. Actions have consequences. If she breaks any boundary you and Felix have set, she won't see the baby for X amount of time. That could be days, weeks, months, or even a year, depending on how severe the boundary she broke was. You could even do it. First offense, X days. Second, X months. Third, permanent. This is something that you and Felix need to sit down now and talk about. This blatant disrespect needs to stop, and it needs to stop immediately. This can't continue, if for no other reason than your mental health. She knows you have an eating disorder and is deliberately using it against you. What is her end goal? For you to spiral so she can tell everyone that you're an unfit mother? That sounds psychotic. Lissa Bryan says, the mother-in-law is trying to assert power. She's putting things in the baby's room to put her claim on it and turn it into her own territory. Her disparagement of OP as a mother is an attempt to set herself up as the expert that OP will have to obey. She's also trying to tear OP down with those comments about her weight, attacking vulnerable spots to try to make her more insecure and vulnerable to being shoved aside. Once these power games start, they rarely stop without hard boundaries and harsh consequences. OP needs to be prepared to cut off access to the baby, and the instant mother-in-law starts playing her little games, and only allowed unmonitored interaction after a lot of trust has been built up, because she will try to drive a wedge between that child and OP via snide comments and emotional manipulation. And now, onto the updates. So Felix and I sat down and had a conversation about how to manage his mother going forwards. I told him everything that she had said to me, and he was adequately furious with her. He asked me exactly what I wanted done in the future so that she would understand where our boundaries are, and follow them. I told him that I'd rather him speak to her alone at first, so that I wasn't immediately made out to be the bad guy. I acted on advice, and the locksmith has been called to change the locks on the house, and Felix has ordered us a Ring doorbell off Amazon with the assurance that I'll be able to put it in. He hates doing the electronics, but you know how it is. I'll leave him to it. And then he called up mother-in-law and organized a lunch date for today so they could have a talk between themselves. He got back in this afternoon, and as he walked into the door, smiled at me and went, sorted. And characteristically, went to go and make himself a cup of tea. I got a message a few minutes later from her saying that she was very sorry for what she had said to me, that she was in the wrong. Only going to visit when invited, not going to go into the nursery anymore, and was going to respect the rules and boundaries that he and I set for our home life and for our child. And after, added that she was sorry for the comments that she'd made on my appearance. I'll believe it when I see it, but at least it's a good start. And we've all agreed to go for dinner at some point to talk about future expectations when the baby comes. I talked to Felix, and he said that she'd been offended at first, didn't believe that she'd done anything wrong, and he also specifically said that she hit with the spiel of, "Oh, I must be such an awful mother then," and he told me that he'd told her, "It's not about that. It's about you disrespecting my wife, our child, and our home. If you continue, you're not going to dream of being able to see your grandchild." She was apparently, and unsurprisingly, sulky, and he told her to apologize, and she said she would, and to her credit, did. Thank you all for your advice about how to handle things going forwards with the locks and everything. The amount of support was crazy, but I can't thank you all enough. I feel so much calmer about the situation. I don't know if she's going to stick to what she said going forwards, but at least boundaries have been set, and I know that Felix has my back. On a lighter note to end, I asked if he had anything that he wanted to say to the people who commented, and he said, "Can you add that photo of me in Florida?" Felix, that's not even slightly relevant. Shame. What do you want for tea? Thank you. I love Felix. That's so funny. What do you want to say to everyone? Chuck in that photo of me in Florida, eh? What do you want for tea? I want to marry Felix now. What the hell? Stop hogging him, OP. Pegging Pinhead says, "Well, now I want to see Felix in Florida." And OP says, "I told him this, and he replied, I know what the people want." Edit, I'll describe the photo, and hopefully somewhat satiate the people. It was when we were in the Florida Keys, and he's sitting in a comically large yellow wooden beach chair, think 3 times the normal size of one. He's got relatively short, wavy brown hair, and he's holding up a red spade in one hand and giving the thumbs up with the other, and has this stupidly goofy grin on his face. He'd just finished making a sandcastle, which is somewhat visible in the background, and had sat down to have a rest. Bless him. He also told me to add that he looks really fit, so do with that what you will. LLC 4269 says, "Felix rocks. Hopefully your mother-in-law is serious and respects boundaries. I want to be a grandmother so much, and while I don't have any yet, Reddit has been an excellent tool in showing me what kind of mother-in-law and grandmother to not be ever. Also, that bullshit about how she's raised 3 children and knows better than you about what endangers babies? That's what my mother-in-law said, and insisted on laying my baby boy on his stomach. I was very ill with a medical emergency after his birth, and was unable to care for him for 2 months. I begged her to not put him on his stomach, as research was showing that could contribute to SIDS, and they were starting to really push that education-wise. She insisted that she was put on her tummy, and all of her children were put on their tummy, and it would be fine. And I honestly was too sick to keep badgering her about it. Oh my god. Oh. Trigger warning, I'm sorry guys. Yeah, trigger warning for this one, this hits me. And then when I could take care of him again, he would not sleep any other way ever. And guess what? He died of SIDS at almost 4 months. This was 21 years ago, so we've worked through it all, and she was highly traumatized, as was my father-in-law, because they were out for dinner, and he is the one who actually laid him down, and felt terrible. I hated my in-laws for a minute, but she was suicidal, and I knew that it wasn't something they intended. Plus, I do care about them very much, and love them. And since nobody really knows what causes SIDS, and he had some other health conditions happening that the medical examiner could not say did not contribute to his death, I chose not to blame her. But it still took a long time to completely get over my complicated feelings towards her, because it's as devastating as you think it's going to be. Listen to your gut, mama. We are given instincts for a reason. genuinely so horrific to hear stories like that, but, this is yet another reason to set and maintain strict and healthy boundaries with those around you and get your partner to reinforce those boundaries because you don't want things like that happening. This mother-in-law in OP's story saying, well, my kids never died of choking hazards, could very well kill her grandchild who will choke to death on a choking hazard. That's why you have to be so strict with these people because they are ignorant. They say, it didn't happen to me, therefore I am immune to it. And look what happens when reality punches them in the face. Much like that last story that I just read in the comments, where she was traumatized and she was suicidal. When you live in ignorance, you open yourself up to realities like that. And then they can't handle living with the consequences of their own actions. Obviously, she didn't log off of life, but if you don't set and maintain those boundaries, you don't get your partner to reinforce them, because obviously she couldn't, she was too sick. These things happen. It's grim, and we give this advice so that people can avoid worst-case scenarios happening to them. Obviously, anything can happen on the spectrum of, the child being born to being abused by the mother-in-law. Who knows? There's so many different things that can happen on the way to SIDS. But, we want to stop that from happening. Thank you for sharing your story with us, OP. I very much appreciate it, and I'm glad that boundaries are being set. Felix sounds like an angel. Please give him a kiss for me, because I can't do it, and I am so sad that I can't. What did you guys think of this one? Let me know in the comments down below. Am I the asshole here for not consoling my boyfriend because I make more money? Reddit, I need a gut check if I'm the asshole or not. I make a good deal of money, which I know people will say I'm the asshole already, but I live a very modest lifestyle. My monthly budget is $4K a month, and most months I profit $30K. I'm self-employed, so sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. Next month, minor flex, because I'm anonymous and I can, it'll be around $80K pre-tax. Woohoo! I have a boyfriend, and we've been dating for 5 months. He's a good guy, but more traditional than I've ever dated before. He works as an assistant manager in a farming shop, paying $15 an hour. We are both in our mid-30s and live in the arse end of nowhere. I only moved here to be close to my niece and nephew. No, he doesn't know what I make. We've only been dating a few months, and I'm private about how much I'm squirreling away. I drive an older Kia, bought a standard 3/2 house last year, but have almost paid it off. The issue is, he saw one of my invoices to a vendor pop up on my notifications. The bill was about $5K. He was shocked that I was paying that much. I told him it was the cost of doing business, and he was like, must be nice to drop twice of what a normal person makes a month on business. I'm usually water off a duck's back when it comes to conflict, so I told him that it'd be nice if I didn't have to pay that bill at all. He dropped it, but I was getting a vibe from him the last few days. He seemed distant. I visited at his place and asked him what was wrong, and I guess seeing me pay someone $5,000 sent him on a complete spiral. He's trying to figure out how he can be a man when I'm off paying other men more than he makes. Insecurity Batman, what's going on? I did not like the implications of that, like I'm a hooker or something, and asked him if he freaks out on farmers who drop thousands on equipment. He said it was different and asked how much I make. He hasn't asked before, which was a little on me, because I always give the impression that what I make isn't that impressive. I had a bad feeling, so I lied and told him $120K, which is officially my salary take. Hi, IRS. If you know what S-Corps are, you have an idea what I mean. Anyway, he burst into tears. I think if I was nicer, I should have consoled him or something. I know he's feeling like a loser, which he's not. He has a cool job in my opinion, and he's super knowledgeable about farm stuff, which I find interesting. He's a pillar in the community because we're surrounded by ranchers, and he knows everyone, and again, I find it really cool. But he was upset that I see more money on the regular than he sees in a year. I may have dropped the ball a bit here and told him he's going to have to find a way to be okay with not being the provider, and then he just got out of his house. I just couldn't figure out a way to make him feel better without lying more or making myself small. I guess I could have told him that working in a farm store is super effing manly or something, but I don't know. It's easy to think of these things afterward. My guess is it's some early midlife crisis, but I resent that it's coming at my expense. That because I'm doing well, he feels bad. If I found out that he secretly had a lot of family money, I'd be really happy and glad for him. But no, learning I could cover a $5,000 bill for my own business made him feel like less of a man to the point that he had to throw shade on me. That's a him problem. I'm still kinda pissed about that. I don't know. I'm also coming from a place of super privilege because it's been a few years since I've had to think about bills, and I don't care what people say. That changes you. So am I the asshole? And also, what do I do now? In the comments, not the asshole. You are not compatible. He's always going to have a problem with you earning more than him, which is pretty sad in this day and age that men have an issue with this. Eventually, if the relationship progressed, you would have to disclose what it really is. If he's reacting like this now, imagine what that would be like. And OP says, yeah, that was a concern when he was freaking out over the $5K bill. I was thinking that his head would explode if he saw the quarterly tax bill that I made a week ago. Someone else says, based on your post, my first thought was that this guy didn't even understand the difference between gross and net profits. Just because you drop $5K on a bill to be paid doesn't mean that's what's going to your personal account. He also doesn't seem to understand the volatility of operating your own business. As long as he shows up and does his job, he has security. You could be doing everything right and one day lose your business to a fickle market. And OP says, and how? There is a reason I'm living on so little while making so much. Dumbass little tech bros are actively trying to create AIs to make me redundant. Meanwhile, people will always need food as a farmer. Not if we make AI images of food and send the farmers out of business. Now, who's gonna buy the rights to my idea? Anyone? Someone else says, not the asshole. His inferiority complex is not your problem. You shouldn't have to diminish yourself to make him feel good about himself. He should be proud of you. He should be pushing you to be the best version of you, and vice versa. If he hadn't been snooping, he wouldn't have found out. If he hadn't asked intrusive questions, he wouldn't know how much you make. If he hadn't had a tantrum, there wouldn't be a problem. If he wants to be the provider, he should find someone who wants to be dependent on him financially. Do not ever dull your shine to make an insecure asshole feel better about himself. You're incompatible. And Grand Maleo says, not the asshole. I was a blue-collar worker. The usual reaction to a wife who made more than my male co-workers was, now I don't have to work overtime. It was rare that it bothered them. The minority that were bothered by it ended up divorced. And yeah, I think that comment, to me, kind of hits on the heart of the issue. Rich husband or rich wife, now I don't have to work overtime. That is the sensible reaction to this. They still want to be your partner. They still love you for you, regardless of your income. Your partner isn't going to your face saying, hey, you're poor and I'm richer than you. I think OP's partner in this situation is ascribing the wrong intent to OP's kind of obfuscation of their income. From my opinion, it seems as though he thinks she is looking down on him, she has something to hide, she's doing this for nefarious reasons. Now he feels bad that the cat's out of the bag and he can't be the provider that he wants to be, as he has said. But really, if I were in OP's shoes, I just don't want gold diggers in my life. I don't want people knowing private information about my finances, because only people I know I can trust should know those things. And if people find out about those things, I'm gonna have the whole town asking for a handout from me. That trust gets built over time. It's unfortunate that he's very insecure about this situation. Man or woman, either are gonna have the same reaction from me. I'm not gonna say, oh, OP's partner is a woman. Oh, we need to feel really bad for her. OP's a horrible person as a man. No. This just shows to me that those two are fundamentally incompatible. They can be compatible if they have a sit down together and discuss this and be like, hey,
I feel like you overreacted. Can we have some sense and sensibility back, please? But as it stands, not the arsehole OP. And now, onto the updates. So long story short, my boyfriend of 5 months who doesn't make a lot found out I make a hell of a lot. He makes around 30k a year, and I'll be clearing 400k, though I was caught off guard when he saw a financial email and told him 120k. He freaked out and had a minor emotional meltdown because he realized he would never be the provider, and I told him to get over it. Not a huge surprise to anyone, but we talked it out, and a big reason he reacted badly is because he's in a bad spot. We live really rural, and $15 an hour in a farm store is basically the top pay without a major change of life on his part. Moving away, somehow changing jobs when there are no real jobs, or winning the lottery, etc. The stress got to him and he didn't react well. He apologized, and our relationship limped along for a few more weeks, but he started making little digs at my career, saying stuff like how he can't believe I make so much money for silly projects, that it's wild I make more money than a doctor when I'm not saving lives, things like that. Typing them out, they sound like mild nitpicks, and I certainly have a love-hate relationship with my art when I'm in the weeds of it, but I didn't like the vibe that was coming from him. It felt resentful. Instead of being happy that he had a girlfriend who was doing well, it felt like he saw it all as a failure on himself. Like, I kinda think my future is not great because AI is coming for my job, but if I somehow do even better, then how would I explain it to him without him freaking out? I broke it off and he didn't seem that upset, so I guess it was a good call. Though suspiciously, one of the local churches has contacted me for money for their local charity. They seem to know that I'm a high earner, even though I've kept it private. I even use a registered agent for my LLC. So I think he's been telling people tales. It's a small town, so that is fun. Anyways, thanks for all the advice on the last post, and for Christ's sake, I don't do OnlyFans. OP on turning down the church's request for donations. Lol, no. I don't attend church anymore, but I don't think I could bring myself to say that I worshipped Satan even as a joke. Instead, I was really enthusiastic about the charity and offered to give $20. The church admin lady said stuff like, "Those who have the means must give," and I pretended like I don't know what she was talking about. We went back and forth, and after about 15 minutes, I reluctantly got talked up to $50. I probably sound cheap AF, but I don't even go to that church. Maybe they should ask their own parishioners for their projects. In the comments, someone says, "Good for you. I don't understand why it's such an issue if one side earns more than the other. Be happy for your partner that they do well and support them. I think you dodged a bullet by leaving, because if he can't support you there, then he'd probably be making problems in other things later on as well. Good luck for your future." You dodged a bullet. He's acting like a child, he is bitter and throwing a tantrum. He's definitely too immature for an adult relationship. And yes, I think he told people and it's gotten back to the church. Block him and say no to the church. Nasty Little Man says, "Oh wow, I can't believe a church that she doesn't go to had the audacity to call her and ask her for money. And I can't believe she gave them money still. Maybe OP is a bigger person than I am, but is it just me or is that super scummy of the church?" Have Plushie Will Talk replies, like honestly, I would have weaponized it. Started crying, "You're the 5th group this week calling me for money. I'm a single woman who is self-employed. I don't even know you. You don't even know me. I don't know why you're all calling. It's interrupting my work, and if I don't work, my business will, and then sobbed. Really cried hard. Keep on saying, "I don't know why you keep calling me for money," and "I'm self-employed and I can't focus on my job. I have so many people I need to pay." I love that. Basically, imply the boyfriend is telling lies, so OP is harassed by people for money that she doesn't have. Make him the pariah. If you give a church a cookie, it'll end with you on the street so a vicar can get a higher quality of life. Well, all's well that ends well in this story, huh, guys? I think there was, a glimmer of hope in that update that they could have worked this out together and been able to work this one out as just a big bump in the road on a long journey of life together. But as it stands, it was and still is a gigantic incompatibility between the two of them. That was just something that he couldn't get over, and instead of being more humble about it and accepting, he goes and tells the town because he knows that she wants her own privacy, and he's bitter. So what is a scorned, by their own scorning of themselves, bitter person going to do? They're going to go and do everything that you, as the private person, do not want. Screw him for doing that. He's earned no sympathy here. I hope he stews in the sadness and misery of his own creating now, because he could have been a better person and turned the other cheek and been accepting of it like everyone else is, or so many people are. Obviously not everyone else, but no, he chose the worst thing to do. So screw him. Go find someone that actually values you, OP, and won't, throw jabs at you non-stop like he did. And as always, thank you for sharing your story with us. I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments down below. Our next post is by user SweetSyrup9739, and it's titled, "Am I the asshole for becoming indifferent towards my wife after discovering her affair? My 30 male, wife, 34 female, and I have been together for 8 years, 5 of them married. I thought we were the kind of couple that could tell each other any problem. I love her deeply and always believed that she felt the same way about me. Like many other couples, we had our ups and downs, but I never thought that it could lead to infidelity. 4 months ago, I started noticing changes in her behavior. She was more distant, always glued to the phone, and avoiding our conversations. You know, the typical thing about a cheating person. Well, one day, I came across a message on her phone that confirmed what I feared the most. She was seeing someone else. It was like a punch in the stomach. I felt anger, sadness, and an overwhelming sense of betrayal. But instead of confronting her right away, I decided to wait. My main reason was to protect myself in a possible divorce. If I was going to face this situation, I wanted to have solid evidence. So I spent the next 2 months gathering messages, photos, and anything else that I could use if things got legally difficult. During those 2 months, I feigned normality while the pain piled up. I watched her act like everything was fine, and with each passing day, my feelings for her faded. The love I once felt was replaced by indifference. If anyone says that love for someone doesn't go away, well, it's not entirely true. When I finally gathered all the evidence, I confronted her. I showed her everything I knew. And although she tried to deny it at first, she finally admitted that she had been having an affair. She said it was a mistake, that she still loved me, and that she wanted to work things out. But by then, I didn't feel anything anymore. I didn't scream, I didn't cry, I didn't even get angry. I told her that it was okay, that we could get a divorce, and that we could each move on with our lives. My lack of emotion baffled her. She said my indifference was cold and cruel, and that if I had truly loved her, I should have fought to save our marriage, which was ironic coming from her. But the truth was that I did love her very much, only that after 2 months of living with the betrayal in silence, I just didn't care. Am I the asshole here for becoming indifferent towards my wife after discovering her affair? The Real One Mexican 2 says, "Not the asshole. I remember this. The only reason she's sorry is because she got caught. Ironic she wants to fight for the marriage after getting dicked down for 2 months. Pineapple Pie Slice says, she wants him to fight for the marriage after she's been getting dicked down for months by another dude. Yeah, no. Thanks, but no thanks. Hot Monica says, exactly. If she's been involved with someone else for months and still expects him to fight for the marriage, it's clear that she's not fully invested. That's not fair to him at all. Well-Earned Nihilism says, not the asshole. You are not the asshole for becoming emotionally detached after discovering your wife's affair. Your feelings are a natural response to a profound betrayal of trust. While your wife may have hoped for a different reaction, you are not obligated to fight for a relationship that she damaged through infidelity. Your decision to protect yourself legally was prudent. Moving forward, focus on healing and what's best for you.
Consider seeking counseling to process your emotions and the end of your marriage in a healthy way.
I always love this specific reaction to cheating partners getting found out. They're like, oh, if you knew I was cheating this whole time, why didn't you stop it as soon as you found out I was cheating? It's like you don't care about me. If you cared, you would have confronted me straight away and cut the shit. And another personal favorite. Oh, I would have given you the benefit of the doubt if I found out about this, I would have forgiven the cheating. Me, as the cheater, can morally grandstand in a reverse hypothetical where you're cheating. I would be completely okay with it, so you should forgive me. What dumpster fire are they pulling all of this audacity out of? Because point me in the direction of that one, I'm gonna need some. I too would love to live in such grand delusion. But yeah, not the asshole for becoming indifferent towards your wife after discovering her affair. She is filth, she is trash, she is scum of the earth. You deserve better, OP. Get her out of your life ASAP so she can go be miserable with her affair partner, because she's talking nonsense, she's talking absolute garbaggio. And now, onto the updates. Wow! Honestly, I didn't expect the number of messages I've received in the last few hours. I apologize for not responding to the comments, but rest assured, I am reading them. My inbox is filled with hundreds of replies, and I'm truly surprised by the support and the number of people who took the time to share their experiences and opinions. At first, I felt overwhelmed reading so many stories from people who have gone through similar situations, some even worse. I never imagined that so many people could relate to what I'm going through. I guess it's eye-opening to see that infidelity is more common than I thought, and yes, there were also comments that made me question if I disconnected emotionally too quickly. But after reflecting, I believe I did what I needed to do to protect myself. Some people told me that I should have tried to save the marriage, but the truth is, I don't think I could have. The betrayal felt like a wall that went up between us, and once I saw everything clearly, there was no way to go back to what we had. It's not that I don't want to be loved or love, it's just that that chapter with her is over for me. Does that make me cruel? I don't know, but it's my truth. Who is gaslighting OP to think that him wanting to leave a marriage and not having love for his partner after they cheated on him makes him cruel? What? Who genuinely believes that? What garbage human beings are telling him that? One of the most impactful things was seeing how many people are stuck in relationships where trust has been broken and they don't know how to move forward. To everyone who asked how I'm doing it, I don't have a definitive answer. For me, it was a slow process, day by day, watching the love fade until it was just gone. There were also some messages from people in my wife's position, those who had made mistakes but genuinely wanted to make things right. It made me think, what would have happened if I confronted her before my feelings faded? Maybe things would have turned out differently, but honestly, I don't think so. Once trust is broken like that, it's nearly impossible to go back to what it was. Anyway, I want to thank everyone who shared their words, whether they were supportive or critical. You've given me a lot to think about, and I'm grateful for that. I'm processing all of this little by little, but if there's one thing I'm sure of, it's that, for the first time in months, I feel like I can breathe and look forward without the weight of what happened. Thanks again. Gameboy330 says, also, sorry for the other commenters blaming you for the affair. It's amazing how they always blame the victim. No Spanking Allowed says, he's a dude, and there's a subspecies of humans on Reddit that will literally blame a man for anything and everything, even if they weren't born when it happened. It also amazes me how people tell him that he should have tried to save the marriage. Some people have too much self-respect to just swallow the hurt and move past it as well. And I laugh when others tell him they've made mistakes like his wife, because cheating is not a mistake, and the moment someone minimizes it to a simple mistake, they're not going to be a trustworthy partner because they truly don't get how much pain and hurt that they intentionally inflicted on the person they supposedly loved. Amen. Say it louder for the people in the back. For me, there's no coming back from that one. That trust is gone. Move on. Find someone else that is not going to disrespect you like that. And don't let people tell you that you're a bad person for not trying to fix that bridge with your cheating wife. If you want to get out of there, that's more than acceptable.
And now onto the latest update. Hi everyone. For those of you who don't know, I'm the guy whose wife cheated on him with someone else and he became indifferent. I'm doing this mini update because many of you asked me to give one, but I'm lazy today, so don't expect a long one. Well, for starters, the divorce is in progress. The notice was delivered to her at one of her friends' houses, since the house we live in is mine, from my mother's side. Moving on to the divorce, she didn't take it well, and called me to tell me that she would contest it, that we weren't getting a divorce. I didn't say anything. I just hung up because it bothered me to hear her voice at that moment. I read comments that say indifference is a way to protect yourself from strong emotions, and they were right. After a couple of days, I started thinking about the time invested in my marriage, and I really got angry. For her, 8 years of relationship was nothing to open her legs to another jerk. For those curious, her lover is someone older, maybe 40 or 47, and he has a wife and a kid. I don't care if the idiot has a heart attack or something. My soon-to-be ex and that guy are just trash that came out of the same landfill. Sorry, I was getting angry as I was writing, so I took some time to calm down. Back to my soon-to-be ex. I really don't care if she decides to contest the divorce. She's just making things harder for herself, since all of our assets are separate, including the house where I live. For the moment, that's all I can share with you. Thanks for your advice, and to all of you who commented that I should work things out with her, screw you. You don't decide for others, you just show that you have problems. I'd rather divorce 1,000 times than to stay with a traitor with no morals. Artistic Risk says, tell the wife of her lover, not the asshole, good luck on your divorce. She's a cheating piece of shit. Tara Jo says, yes, this. Who knows who else the affair partner might have been hooking up with, and who knows what he might have brought home from one of those hookups. And Cute Kylie says, absolutely. It's not just about the betrayal, but also the risk she exposed you to by being with someone who might have other partners. Staying indifferent and moving on is definitely the safer choice. And I'm gonna say absolutely do that. Incredible amounts of audacity that she is contesting, even though she's cheating with another married man who she doesn't know isn't cheating with other people, and exposing everyone to diseases. Disgusting. How do we know that she's not cheating with other people either? There is absolutely no trust. She is scum, he is scum. Dump him and run, OP. Again, you deserve so much better. And thank you for sharing your story with us. I very much appreciate it and wish nothing but the best for you going forward. Am I overreacting? Wife contacts ex and I intend to ask for divorce. I recently married my longtime girlfriend of 8 years, who I'll call Amy. Important context. While we've been together that whole time, the first 5 years were not exclusive. We did not live together, and for 2 years were 1,200 miles apart, though we made regular visits. When she and I first met, we were both married but in open relationships. My wife, myself, and Amy's husband were required to travel for extremely long periods of time, sometimes years, with minimal opportunities to return home, as we are security contractors. Amy is an ER nurse. 3 months before she and I met, while her husband was home on a 6-month break, she met a local cop and started a relationship with him. We'll call him Chris. He introduced her to some pretty extreme S&M and BDSM, which she found she deeply enjoyed. Unfortunately, it rapidly escalated past anything even remotely healthy and became abusive. This rapidly began to destroy her marriage and family, and despite her husband giving her an ultimatum, she persisted. I was unaware of the abusive and obsessive nature of her relationship with Chris until Amy's husband had told me. I had noticed that Amy was becoming increasingly erratic, but had no explanation. I broke it off with Amy. A month later, she reached out saying she realized how toxic the relationship was, that she had broken up with Chris, blocked him, and if I was interested, would like to start seeing me again. I verified with her husband and then started sleeping with her again. This was still very much a booty call level of relationship at this point. From that point on, over the next 8 years, we would become closer and closer and eventually marry. However, about 4 years ago, she mentions that he had reached out to her over some pictures that she posted, which is unrelated, that they had a good conversation where he asked why she had broken it off with him, and they both had reached some closure. I noted that while I was glad for her, how could he have reached her if she had blocked him? Her reply was that while she blocked his number, she had forgotten to block him on Instagram. I let it go. A couple of years ago in a conversation with her friend, I find out that during a medical emergency some years back, but after she supposedly blocked him, that it had actually been Chris that she called to take her into the ER and stay, not this friend. I confronted Amy, and she said that when she told me she had a friend take her, that she didn't think to explain who exactly. This has remained a very touchy subject for me, for all the reasons stated. We are also no longer in an open relationship now that I have stopped traveling, among other reasons. We moved back to the area in the same town that Chris was an officer in about 2 years ago. A few months ago, just before we married, she commented that I could be less touchy about Chris now that we are getting married. And after all, he had retired and moved to Florida. We're in the Midwest. I asked how she knew that, and she stated that she read an article about his retirement. Because he retired as a lieutenant and the first K-9 officer, that was barely possible, but I was unconvinced and asked her point blank if she had been talking to him. She said no, point blank. A week ago, I was reading an article about Belgian Malinois, and saw an article about Chris attending the retirement ceremony for his former K-9. The ceremony was only 6 months ago, and would mean that he was in the area until very recently. So I dug, and I'm good at it. Now I have all the dates, times, houses, etc. for the man. He retired 9 months ago, left for Florida right after the K-9 ceremony, but there is no mention in any article of him moving, and there wouldn't be since he moved well after retiring. So I confronted Amy, and this time she says that Chris reached out to her out of the blue via text, and they chatted. When asked how that was possible if he was blocked, she said he had a new number. We had a big fight, and I've spent a couple of days considering what to do. Right now, I plan to confront her tonight. Even if it is true that she forgot to block him on Instagram, why did she have a conversation when he reached out? Even if she was confused and called him to go to the ER, why did she hide that from me for years? Even if he texted her randomly after years, after he moved to Florida, using a new number, why did she have a conversation and tell him that she now lives in town? My full intention is to ask for a divorce tonight. Am I overreacting? Edit, for those who've asked for more information, her husband and I are still close. Let's call him Dan. He is still working. The more to the story is that I had a really bad day that left me unable to keep traveling. As soon as I was home full-time and, more to the point, laid up and not earning, my wife divorced me and tried to take the money and the kids. No need for details there, but I wound up with the kids and the money all got burned on attorneys. Amy had always been the one who had to stay home, so she and I started spending a lot of time together doing life things. Dan was glad to have someone he trusted with her and their kids, and despite me being half speed, he felt good having someone around to keep her from tangling with the too bad crowd, including Chris, which should have been a bigger red flag than it was, but I still hadn't come out of that king of the hill mentality. So the change was when I stopped traveling. Amy and I started living together, her husband Dan left permanently, I quote-unquote adopted her kids, and my wife divorced me, lost custody, and kept traveling, though her travels are all stateside. Dan doesn't have, and at this point doesn't want, a romantic relationship with anyone. I'm sure he still has a list for finding relief, but he's allergic to any sort of a permanent situation. While he would never be willing to, and I don't want to, have me adopt his kids, they were 14 male, 10 male, and 8 female when I met them, 18 male, 14 male, and 12 female when I came home for good, and are now 22, 18, and 16. He has given me power of attorney on their behalf, and they call me Dad. So there's that. And yes, I'm sure there are a lot of people who will all judge us for the choices in lifestyle that we've made. But we are all human, and the things required of the people called on to do the things that we do lead to a lot of compromises. We make the decisions we do based on the things that we know at the moment. Hindsight is only useful when you start looking forward again. In the comments, Away Understanding says, "Not overreacting. She's trickle-truthing you. She has no intention of cutting him out of her life and keeps trying to get you to be okay with this. Clearly, you were never going to be okay with them keeping in touch, so walking away is probably for the best. Once you have an open relationship, they never really close." Yeah, I tend to agree with that one as well. It seems as though she's been hiding it for all of these years, and an open relationship especially needs to be based on so much more trust than just a normal monogamous relationship. She doesn't respect it, and she can't respect it. OP, really, I urge you to get a divorce. Get that divorce and get the hell out of there. You've had your time with her, you've had your fun, but she's decided that you are not enough, and that's not okay. You should not force yourself to stay in that situation. You are not overreacting. And now on to the updates. First, thank you all. It seems pretty shallow, but the validation and criticism that I've gotten from the original post really helped me externalize and get some perspective. Also, some of you are all hilarious. Some of you are compassionate and thoughtful, and others made me appreciate that no matter how stupid I get, somebody will find a way to outdo me. Leading with the headline, I had the conversation. I told her that I am divorcing her. It went as badly as expected. She and Chris have not been physical, but we got to the heart of the reason that she has been in touch with him. I am exhausted, but I feel like I have some clarity of mind and purpose that I have lacked for quite some time. I'll probably feel more chatty tomorrow, but for now, that's what I have. Edit, more coherent update now that I've slept on it. In another reply in the thread below, I have my take on what she told me and her reasons, and I won't repeat it all. And yes, this is my opinion and what I chose to put on here. And I'm sure if she were on here, she would have some reason to explain how none of it is her fault. Thinking about it, the pattern is clear. She even said as much herself, but we don't always hear what we don't want to hear. All of her relationships have come through our professional community in some capacity or another. She's attracted to the men in it and the lifestyle, or at least this version of it. She married Dan because he's exciting and dangerous and mostly absent. She got to have the money, the kids, and exciting husband, near total independence because he was only home maybe 3 or 4 weeks a year, and because of the circumstances, she could also sleep around freely. And so did Dan, to be clear. This was fine until Dan spent an extended period of time at home. There was a lot said there about how unfair and unreasonable it is when one of us comes back home with zero idea of how things work or why, and start acting as if our opinion of what home life should or should not look like needs to be followed. I get that actually. Long story short, she was never and is not now interested in a normal marriage. She wants and enjoys the lifestyle that she had, first with Dan and then with me. It ended with Dan when he came home and tried to play house. It ended with me when I came home long term and tried to do the same thing. For that matter, that's what ended my marriage with my first wife. Me coming home and acting like I owned the place rather than an occasional visitor. Amy did enjoy the more normal life with me, but also wants the old excitement. She wants to have her cake and eat it too. So she reached back out to Chris because she did like what they did until Chris went too far and Dan was about to leave home again, leaving her alone with Chris around. Bonus excitement for her at the time because she got to literally watch me confront Chris at our home and send him away. But things have changed since then, and the new circumstances mean that she can hook up with Chris and do much more extreme things than she does with me, while also having me at the house to keep Chris in check. The only catch is that it's no longer on the up and up, so she and Chris would have to sneak around. Maybe that made it more exciting. Almost works, but I clue in and realize they are in contact and unravel the whole thing before they have an opportunity to act on it. What's more, Chris definitely scratches a sexual itch that Dan and I did/do not. Dan and I are similar in that we can do and enjoy some level of BDSM, But as it escalates, it becomes much too similar to how things we don't want within a million miles of our homes. I'm happy to put the handcuffs on you and hold you down, but once we get to heavy impact play, cutting, or God help me, CNC, the level of nope is so high that it could put me off for weeks. So yeah, Chris is a better lover than I in that regard. And more, alcoholism. I know my short reply last time, while pretty tired, was pretty ugly. Yes, there is truth there, but no, it isn't that simple. I was quoting her, but a lot of what she said was intended to be hurtful. I appreciate the kind questions and comments. I have tried medical marijuana, but it's a terrible fit for me. It made me physically less coordinated, but also made me feel more alert. The combination takes me from a level of hypervigilance that already requires medication, and that I'm slowly improving with CBT, to flat-out dangerous paranoia. So, hard pass. For whatever reason, I have little reaction to local anesthetic, so it's difficult to treat the pain locally. The solution has been stronger meds like opiates. But since I don't have a death wish, nor any desire to inflict a drug-addicted dad on my children, I left those behind completely at the very first opportunity. So now I take a crap ton of ibuprofen. Of course, right? Lidocaine patches, not particularly effective, but they're better than nothing. Biofreeze, weekly massage therapy, and yes, more nights than not, I wind up drinking at bedtime in order to get to sleep. I've gotten a lot of advice about this over the last few years, and a lot of suggestions. I don't imagine anyone here has a better idea, but please feel free to make a suggestion. I'm 100% open to anything that works without turning me into a monster. In the comments, Impossible Dish says, "What's the reason that she was in touch with him?" OP replies, "She got in touch with him again because I'm boring. When she and I got together, I was exciting, and now I'm a strange version of a stay-at-home dad." My words, not hers, but I'm confident they're a more accurate representation of the truth than all the bullshit she gave me. She married Dan because he was exciting. My assumption, this never came up. She got with Chris when Dan was home because months and months of reality doesn't compare to the image of the man when he is traveling. So she gets with Chris because he's new, dangerous, and exciting. A cop with a thing for BDSM, S&M, and poor judgment about boundaries. That goes well until it doesn't. In the meantime, she finds out I am available. Dan and Amy have known my wife and I professionally for years, and that's extra exciting because of all the reasons. So I'm brought in, and even more exciting because then I deal with the over-aggressive Chris. That works fine for a time, but then Dan gets sick of her shit and stops visiting home more than a week a year or so. She still has enough on the side to keep her occupied, and neither Dan nor I actually require much in terms of time or emotional energy. So other than feeling a bit emotionally lonely, she's fine. Then I got hurt and came home full-time. With my wife away, and then divorcing me, she finds she enjoys having someone actually around, and that's appealing. So we get closer and closer. Eventually we make a go of our blended family, and that's great in its own way, but a work-from-home guy who spends the first couple of hours of the day with a walking stick and the last few hours of the day drinking the pain off is not exciting no matter what he used to do. And that's what she craves. Her words were, more or less, "You don't actually do anything anymore. You just talk about it with people and never leave the house, and you're drunk every night." Chris is still around, but now he can be the exciting side piece that lets her get her itch scratched. But if he gets too far out of hand, she still knows that he can't just show up to the house and stalk her like he would have if or when she was home alone. Exciting guy for the funsies, boring me to keep it from getting out of hand. She never said any of this until last, but despite all of the evidence to the contrary, I'm not stupid, and that's ultimately what was going on in my opinion. Beast Boss Nasty says, "Damn, that was way more brutal than I ever imagined. It's not even necessarily about Chris, other than he's around and exciting. Despite his history, doesn't even have the gumption to seek out fresh new danger. She's gotten lazy in her craft, honestly. You sure hitched your trailer to one defective ass lemon of a wah-wah-wah. This woman has got a deep chasm in her soul that will never be filled. I can't say that you shouldn't have seen it coming considering all the history, but still, brutal, man. Can't say what I really feel beyond that without getting banned. Defective ass lemon of a what? That's a new phrase, and that one should be a flare. What a dumpster fire, but what an entertaining story. I hope you guys liked that one. I don't have anything else to add besides, make better decisions in your life. Not blaming you at all for that, OP. I mean, she's a terrible person and she deserves everything that's coming to her for this, but you did marry someone that points around the room like, do I have to spell it out? Oh my god, there's 17 minutes of what she is, and that's definitely something. She is definitely one of the people of all time, that's for sure. I'm sorry to say, but it really sounds like Chris is going to murder her. She's going to turn into a true crime case. If I were a betting man, I would put money on that because that is such a messy situation to keep yourself hitched to. I guess she's mentally and physically hitched to a psychopath that can easily and probably will kill her at some point because he keeps pushing it over the edge. And she has that gaping hole in her soul of I can't stop getting back with him because I don't want to. So to me, this is a bit of a rock and a hard place situation because if you leave, there's no safety net anymore. And I'm surprised she's made it this long if I'm being completely honest. And let's be honest, if she does get murdered, he's a cop. What's the chances he's even going to be on the hook for that one? Regardless, thanks for the story, OP. Wishing you nothing but the best for the future, but I don't see it going too well with her future, that's for sure. Our next post is by user ScarletBitch69, titled, Boyfriend 33 male not being supportive after my 31 female car accident. Repeatedly brings up sex frequency and compares me to his ex-wife, despite me setting a boundary not to. Worth going to couples counseling? You don't even have to say anything else. That was the story right there. Oh my god. What a mess. So my boyfriend and I have been together for almost 3 years. I felt he treated me very well up until recently. He was in a previous marriage before we met, and she had an affair, and he told me he was over it. We moved in together a few months ago, and have been having major adjustment issues. On top of that, about a month ago, I was in a very bad car accident when a truck ran the red and T-boned into me, totaling my car and landing me in the hospital for a bit. I had a concussion, tons of cuts and bruises, and extreme shoulder, neck, and back pain, which is still an issue. My boyfriend was very supportive the first 2 weeks after it happened, and I appreciated it. Then we had a fight one night a couple of weeks ago about me sleeping in the other bedroom since my insomnia had been so bad since the crash. He acted like I was doing it because I wanted space or something, but it was purely because of my insomnia and how difficult it is for me to get comfortable post-accident with the back pain and the fact that he moves a lot in his sleep. I told him that my health was non-negotiable and that he cannot take it personally that I need to focus on my health and rest right now. About a week later, I still had a lot of soreness and pain, but was getting a bit better. So we went out to dinner, and after he asked if we could spend some time in bed together, I hesitated because I wasn't sure if sex was a good idea because of the soreness. He got pouty and closed off like he does sometimes when I reject him. But I still laid with him, and I asked for a massage for my shoulder, hoping maybe I could be up for some sex after a massage. But he said his hand hurt and just went to sleep. In the morning, he wanted to have sex again. But mornings are very hard for me since that's peak soreness, and I tried to explain that, but he wasn't being understanding at all. He went off and said once a week for sex is not enough for him, and that this has been going on even before the accident, and that he feels unloved when I reject him. I explained again that my body is not well, so I'm not going to be up for sex as much at this time, and that generally, I believe sex once a week is average for most working adults. Also, we had sex on a weekly basis after the accident too, so nothing changed and I didn't understand his frustration. I said, "It's not like I stop having sex with you for months at a time." He said something to the effect of, "That's what's going to happen soon anyways." I'm not sure why he'd say that because that has never been the case ever. The only reason I can think he'd believe that is because that is what his ex-wife did to him towards the end of his marriage. After cooling off, we had a long talk, and I told him that things need to change immediately. He needs to be patient when I recover, not get pouty and try to guilt me into sex, and never to compare the trauma that he suffered in his last relationship to me and project it onto our relationship. Especially during a fight and while I'm recovering, as it adds unnecessary pressure and feels like he blames me for things that have nothing to do with our relationship. I set clear and strong boundaries, and I told him before to never compare me to his ex ever again. He apologized and felt bad and said he wanted to do better. And over the next week, he seemed to be putting in more effort. I think there was still some resentment possibly left over because some of the things he did was slightly irritating me, and I just felt very disrespected and misunderstood overall. Then when driving with him, which I had anxiety about due to PTSD from the accident, he ran a stop sign. I had a panic attack and told him he needs to pay more attention. He got upset, and we went back to having tension again. I said that maybe we should get couples counseling because our communication is not healthy, and he agreed. But he was a bit hesitant. I said I would look for a therapist in the morning. This morning we were cuddling, and I had a nightmare about us. So maybe I was feeling a bit distant and sad this morning about it. Maybe he sensed that because he said how anxious he was feeling and how his stomach was hurting this morning. Then he said that he used to have to wake up like this every day in the past. I asked him if he meant during his marriage, because he never shared that I made him feel like that before. He didn't give a straight answer, so I asked him again directly. And he sort of admitted that that's what he meant. I told him that he was breaking my boundary by bringing up how he felt from his past relationship and comparing it to us, which I laid out clearly not even a week ago. Then he tried to gaslight me and say that I was the one that said that it was about his marriage and brought it up. But he then admitted that that's exactly what he was referring to. If he's so certain that I'm going to end up like his ex, who cheated and lied and was manipulative according to him, then why are we even trying? I do not at all treat him like his ex allegedly treated him, yet during arguments, he takes out his past grievance on our relationship. I've lost so much trust in him in the last few weeks, and I'm already in so much pain from my concussion and other accident injuries as well as PTSD symptoms from the crash that I just don't have the mental or emotional energy to handle this right now. Luckily, I'm talking to a therapist finally later, and I am in group therapy to address my driving anxiety and PTSD. I have so many medical bills and job stress on top of everything else. I feel like he takes me for granted, blames me for things his ex did, and doesn't respect me sexually or in terms of boundaries. I was planning to search for couples counselors and work on this with him, but I'm just tired. It's going to be a lot of effort to fix this, and he needs to do a ton of his own work in therapy to resolve resentment from his past. He's had a therapist since the divorce, but obviously he has not worked through this enough. We just moved in together, and I just don't have the physical or mental energy to move out and go through a breakup. I'm just so upset and overwhelmed with everything, and I just don't know what to do at this point. Is it worth going to couples counseling? In the comments, he's clearly and repeatedly show you that he does not care as much about your healing or whether you're hurting or need to rest or you're in pain as much as he cares about his self. Any man pressuring you to have sex with him and acting like a pouty baby when you cannot do so because you've had a catastrophic car accident or in pain is not a decent human being. Years ago, I was married and within a few months got pregnant and had our first bad fight when he wanted to have sex while I was in the middle of a threatened miscarriage. I never felt the same about him after that. He's showing you exactly who he is, and counseling isn't going to change that. And OP says, yeah, I'm afraid you're right. I really don't know if this is his character because he keeps saying, it was just a bad day when I said that. But he's been acting like this for weeks, and it just sounds like he's not taking responsibility. Now he's trying to be sweet and caring and giving me space, but I don't know, it's not the same. Can you tell me more about how your marriage ended? Did he pressure you in other ways? How long did you stay together after that? OP on needing to end the relationship if her boyfriend is not meeting her expectations of him. OP says, I gave all of this some thought, and I now know what I must do. I need to end things. Because yeah, I don't think I could see him respecting me if I had a long-term illness like cancer, and there just is no communication or trust anymore. But yes, what can I do to make these next few weeks and months manageable? Besides lower expectations, how can I be planning my exit? OP responds on getting couples counseling or a therapist to deal with communication issues. Luckily, we aren't locked into a lease, but it's his quote-unquote house. As he's reminded me so many times, I just live there. So I would need to be the one to move my stuff out. But yeah, these last few months have been incredibly difficult. I knew this was a red flag when at the beginning of the relationship, he talked about all the horrible things his ex-wife did to him and seemed to have no insight into what he did to cause that marriage to end too. My own fault, I guess, for ignoring the red flags. But yeah, I guess you're right. I'm nothing more than a rebound because he didn't want to be alone. Really sucks to come to terms with that, but it is what it is now. But yeah, no moving forward if he doesn't want to put in effort and communicate, despite the fact I've scheduled check-in weekly where he can discuss these things. He admitted that he isn't trying because he's too discouraged that things aren't back to normal, I guess. But he never discusses these things in a calm and mature way. Instead, he brings up his issues with passive-aggressive, rude comments, and at the worst times. Like, I've asked him not to bring these issues up right before bed or before I've eaten, but he doesn't care to not cross that boundary. I feel like I'm putting in so much effort, and I'm just so tired and hurt. We technically have an appointment with a counselor a month from now, even though I've been begging for us to get a counselor for a month already. He's going through his insurance, even though it's going to take too long, and the mental health services with that insurance are awful. The real kicker is that I feel he definitely can afford a therapist out of pocket. He makes 6 figures and 3 times as much as me, and if he really wanted to, he could easily afford it. But he claims he can't afford it right now. He just doesn't care enough, I guess. I'm sorry about the state of your relationship. It's a shame when people in committed relationships won't step up and fix things like they should. But thank you for the advice. I'm not sure how to plan my exit, but I will look into it more. After seeing how little effort and no improvement on communication on his part, I don't think that this can be repaired even if I wanted to make it work. I'm just too tired and frustrated and just don't know if I have it in me to fix this mess. But yes, he apparently has a lot of resentments towards me because he never communicates effectively before things get out of hand. Yesterday, he said, I have a lot of issues in this relationship, and maybe I should share instead of keeping it to myself. Like, duh, I've been begging him to communicate for 3 years, so I don't think it'll change ever. The communication and lack of reassurance about the future was an issue long before the accident. But after the accident, I don't think I can ever get over how he treated me at my most vulnerable. Thanks for the advice, and I'm gonna end it tomorrow. Back up to the post, there is a short update. So I've given this some thought, and after a lot of communication attempts with him, I just don't see things changing. And I believe he may have been showing me the real him. I need to start planning my exits. Any advice? Due to medical bills, I'm broke, and I just started a new job, so I have no time or energy for anything. How can I move out when I don't have the energy to box all of my shit up after finally unboxing all of it? Then I guess I need to find a roommate. I just am still in so much pain and pressure from the crash that it's hard to make moves right now. Please, any advice or kind words about the breakup and the move out. Thank you, Reddit. And now, onto the updates. Oof, the title alone is so painful to read even now, but anyways. So I ended things with my boyfriend. It was very hard for me to come to terms with the fact that he is so extremely selfish and maybe only cared about what I could provide him with this whole relationship. I really didn't want to have to admit this, but it was the truth, and in my time of vulnerability, it was extremely clear. After what happened, I knew I had to walk away. But he really seemed like he wanted to try to fix things, and seemed to feel very remorseful for being so selfish and causing so many issues instead of being there for me after in my recovery. But after only a week or 2, it was back to him being very passive-aggressive, refusing to communicate, and thinking I'm not doing enough for him. It was very exhausting, and I knew I was done. He also admitted that he didn't see a future with me, and had too many fears as a result of his past marriage. Not at all a surprise, unfortunately. I'm really pissed that he couldn't figure this out and communicate it before I moved in.
But now I'm kinda glad the accident happened, because it made things very clear how unbalanced this relationship has been from the start and was never going to change. I'm embarrassed it took me so long to admit to myself that I knew he didn't want to be a partner in this relationship. When I brought all of this up to end things, he agreed that we should end it, as I deserved someone who can support me and communicate in the ways that I needed. He knows he has a lot of effing work to do in individual therapy, but whether he actually changes or not is not my problem. But if he is this unhealed at his age and has been in therapy a few years already, I don't think there is any hope for him. But again, not my problem. Now I can focus on my healing and recovery and finding someone who can actually be there through thick and thin, sickness and health. I'm glad that I got to see him for who he is sooner rather than later. I'm very mad that he wasted so much of my time and took so much of my effort away from my own healing, but that's what selfish people do, I suppose. At least he could finally be honest with himself and me that he knew this wasn't going anywhere, and he didn't want to put the effort in. He's got a long and probably lonely road ahead of him, I think, and I do too with my healing. But I know that I have the awareness and communication skills to build a relationship I know I deserve. I still have a lot of pain and stress from the accident, and I'm glad that I have the freedom to focus on that. Sad how much my healing was delayed in this insanity, but it is what it is now. He said I can stay in the spare bedroom for as long as I need, and that he wants to help me box and move whatever I need. But my plan is to stay at my parents' house briefly, and then maybe stay with a friend while I look for a more long-term roommate. I am extremely broke with medical bills from the accident, so it'll be some time before I can save some money for my own place, even with a roommate. But I just started a new job, so it is possible. Thank you everyone for being honest and real with me. I didn't want to hear it, but needed to. Now I can heal physically, mentally, and spiritually, while he more than likely will be stuck where he's at with his selfishness and entitlement, probably forever. Thank you again, everyone. Any other encouragement is much appreciated. In the comments, very proud of you. He sounds like he's not boyfriend or marriage material and a complete jerk. I would even question his version of events in regards to his ex-wife and why they broke up. You can be certain that you are not the first one he has done this to, and sadly, won't be the last. OP says, thank you. Yeah, I really am shocked he thought he could be in a long-term relationship with this many selfish issues. But I guess people like that cannot self-reflect. I'm just glad that I saw it before I got any deeper with him. I know that he claims that she had an affair, but if she did, I'm sure it was because he pushed her and pressured her for sex until she had enough. I'd love to sit down and talk with her, but doesn't seem appropriate to reach out to her since we have never met or anything. But yeah, he's likely to move on fast and treat another girl the exact same entitled and demanding way. OP on ending the toxic relationship. Yes, it was very toxic, and it's clear now that he was only in it based on what I could provide and do for him. Yes, the guilt is not so bad at all a few days later, because I realize I don't have much to be guilty for. But yes, enforcing clear boundaries and not ignoring early red flags are a must, and now are going to be essential for me to work on when I start dating again. Which is going to be a very long time anyways, but thank you for the advice and kind words. I appreciate it lots. And yeah, it was a hard decision, but necessary for my own healing and sanity. But yeah, there is no fixing anything with a person that's selfish and emotionally unavailable, and entitled, who refuses to put an effort in my time of need. Whether he comes back or not doesn't matter at this point, because I can never trust or even be attracted to him ever again. But I'll be aware that that could happen. I'll be so focused on my health and bettering my own life. I'm confident that it'll be way too late for him. Am I the asshole for not agreeing to house my pregnant teenage sister and her delinquent boyfriend after our parents disowned her? My family and I grew up poor. From when I was old enough to legally work, I, 19 female, have had to take on multiple jobs while balancing school to help with my family and my younger sister. Growing up, I never had a lot, and whatever money I earned, I would spend on my sister, 16 female, and my family.
When I was 18 and had just been accepted into college, my dad's business that he'd worked on for the past couple of years finally took off. This also meant that my sister could now have a normal high school experience without worrying about money. While I was in college, I wasn't in contact with my sister that much since I was so busy with schoolwork. However, from our calls and her social media, I could tell she had changed completely and was involved with some bad people. She would post videos on her Snapchat of her getting drunk, smoking weed, dueling, driving while most likely high and drunk, etc. I tried reaching out to her, but she would mostly deny the claims and told me to mind my own business. At some point, she justified her actions by using the argument, "This is what the cool kids do now. Not everyone was a nerd like you in high school." One of my high school friends, who also has a brother in the same grade, reached out to me and said that she heard that my sister was seeing a sketchy guy from another school. Apparently he sells drugs and was expelled from my sister's high school. I asked my sister about this and she denied it. Last week, I got a phone call from my mum who was sobbing. She tells me that my sister is pregnant. I was so shocked that I could not speak. Then I was angry. When I was her age and even younger, I gave her everything, and so did my parents, so she could have all the opportunities that her peers had. Since my dad's business became lucrative, they've given her every opportunity to succeed. Any extracurricular or sport she wants, academic tutoring, school activities, etc. I never got any of those things. It angered me so much that she took all of this for granted and effed up her life. The father, her delinquent boyfriend, who got expelled and sells drugs. She blows up my phone, but I don't respond. She then sends a series of long text messages asking if she can crash at my place. She also asked me if I could make her an appointment to see a doctor. Lastly, she asked if it would be okay if her boyfriend comes and stays over sometimes. I shut her down. I told her that you dug this hole for yourself. If you allowed yourself to become pregnant, then you should be able to deal with the consequences. Also, I'm currently sharing a small apartment with 2 roommates. She begged some more, and I denied her. In the past few days, she's been texting me and calling me non-stop, saying that she has nowhere to go and has been living in her boyfriend's car. I haven't responded to a single message of hers, but I feel my resolve wavering a bit. I don't fully support her, but maybe I'm being an asshole. Edit: to clarify, I would still never house her in my apartment. That would be extremely disrespectful towards my roommates and would get me kicked out due to the lease agreement. I meant I was considering giving in and sending her some money. Edit 2: my parents have disowned her, not kicked her out. They are refusing to acknowledge that she is their daughter, but she is still welcome to live in their house. She chose not to since my parents are absolutely fuming and probably will yell at her and criticize her, which she honestly needs. Deleted says, "Not the asshole. It hurts to watch families suffer consequences of their actions, but you aren't refraining from helping to be vindictive or to get even. You aren't helping her because the way that she's treated you and your family. It's hard to do, but you are not the asshole." OP replies, "Honestly, I think this is an important lesson that she needs to learn. Actions have consequences, and you need to learn to deal with them like an adult." Thane says, "Not the asshole. Not just that, but you absolutely should not ride the roller coaster that she's chosen for herself. You say it all in your post. She has had every advantage, first from your hard work, then from your dad's hard work, and she chose to F it up. What's more, drugs are involved, and you never want to get involved with people who are druggies, let alone let them into your apartment. They'll steal you blind. This is her problem to solve. She can move back in with your folks, she has choices, she won't be on the street. But even if she was on the street, that's not your problem. If you're worried about the baby, and she's still being irresponsible, then that's for CPS to deal with. There are so many reasons for you to stand firm. 1. She built this, she has to deal with it. 2. She needs to learn that actions have consequences. And 3. Helping her is not only enabling her bad behavior, it is also enabling drug use with her and her boyfriend. Again, enabling equals prolonging. The best way you can help is to cut her off. But this doesn't count the most important reason of all. You have earned your decent life. You've worked hard, you've helped your family, you've helped your wretched, spoiled sister, now you get to live your life. You get to put reasonable boundaries around your life. And that's what this is, a reasonable boundary, and not ruin your own life by being dragged into someone else's mire. I know it's hard because you've spent so much of your life being so generous and so giving, but honestly, OP, it's your turn to think of yourself and what you deserve. And you deserve to live a good life. Bit of a doom and gloom there by those guys, but I agree with the message. You can be there to support her morally, through text, however you'd like. Yes, it's a bit of a tricky situation because she's 16, but she always has the option to go back to your parents, and I do believe that she's going to use it. Yes, she's an idiot, but she's looking to you to extend her idiocy. How long can she hold out, knowing that she is always welcome back home at her parents' house, she always has a support system available to her? Who knows? But you're not an asshole for not sinking your life and where you are currently to enable her drug-taking tendencies and this delusion that she has going on. You are very much justified for having healthy boundaries and making other people respect those boundaries by enforcing them. Keep doing what you're doing, keep supporting her morally and emotionally like you have, but do not support her financially. It's not a good idea. And now on to the updates. So it's been a little bit more than 2 weeks since my first post, and I guess it's safe to say now that the situation has been resolved in probably the best way possible. In my last post, I stated that my sister was still living in the car of her delinquent boyfriend who sells drugs and refusing to come home because my parents had disowned her. At this point, I would like to clarify that my family and I are Chinese, and it's common in Chinese culture to disown your kids when they do something that largely disappoints or embarrasses you. However, this is not a permanent disownment like many of you have brought up. As long as my sister apologizes sincerely and they can see that she's actively trying to fix her mistake and become better, they will take her back as their daughter. Another clarification would be for those people who assumed that my dad kept us poor since he was stubborn and wanted to work on his business and not get a real job. His business was a passion project on the side. My dad was working 50 hours a week at 2 jobs. Alrighty, on to what ultimately happened with my sister. Despite the chain of advice I sent her, she ignored me still. I regularly checked in with her over the next week to see how she was, and she gave me one-word replies until they ultimately stopped. I was growing concerned after she didn't pick up her cell, but then I received a call from my parents. According to my mum, my sister had returned home crying and begging for forgiveness. She had a serious talk with my parents where she apologized for her behavior and promised to make amends. My mum was very tearful as well. They scheduled a doctor's appointment for her immediately, and I believe she went in the next day. I had no idea what made her finally break and return home, so I texted her. First, I told her that I was proud of her for taking action and being mature, and asked if anything happened between her and her boyfriend. At first, she was pretty stubborn and kept insisting that she was just over living in a car, but after a while, she finally admitted that her boyfriend had requested that she start selling for him if she wanted to keep living in his car and eating his food that he was sneaking her. Lamau? What an effing asshole. Glad my sister finally returned to her senses. She told me she broke it off with him, and I sincerely hope that's the truth. This past Monday, she got the pills to successfully terminate her pregnancy. According to my mum, she was begging that they do it ASAP, which was really a breath of relief for all of us because we were worried she might want to keep it. The future seems pretty bright right now for her. My parents decided to pull her out of the public school and send her to a progressive private school that some of my close friends also went to. It's a fantastic school, and I think it'd be great for her. She's officially starting next Monday. I'm gonna go visit her and my family this weekend and see how she is doing. Edits. Forgot to add that the new school also has a wonderful counseling department. I urged my parents to speak to the head psychologist there, and they did, and she'll be having mandatory weekly meetings with her and another therapist at the school. Dunkler Schmetterling says, I'm glad to hear that everything worked out. I wish you and your family the best. OP says, thank you. The future is definitely looking up for my sister. Veast replies, also, I'm glad that it wasn't a true disownment that your parents were doing. It would have been a bad thing had she stayed with the dude, and I guess she got the reality check when he asked her to start selling. Sometimes people need to see for themselves what you try to protect them from for them to understand. Hungry Druid says, very glad you clarified to selling drugs. That worried me a bit about what he was pressuring her to do. Glad that she's home safe, and good that you two were talking again. I 100% expected to see that the boyfriend wanted her to prostitute herself. My heart stopped for a second. Me too. I did think that it was going that way, and I'm glad that it didn't, because that would be an absolute nightmare. Thank God that it ended the way that it did, and we're not in Nightmare Town. Jesus Christ. Situations like this could go either way though. You never know. When they start getting into drugs, you might have lost them entirely until they hit rock bottom and they decide to come back up. But when that happens, they will be an entirely changed person, and it's a very sad thing to see. So I'm very much glad that that did not happen to OP's sister here. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Our next post is by user Lace4151, and it's titled, Am I the asshole here for laughing when she suggested my husband groomed me? I, 30, have been with my husband, 40, for 6 years, and we've been married for 2. Recently, we got a new co-worker, let's call her Sarah, who seems really keen on helping others. During lunch one day, Sarah and I were talking about relationships, and she asked about my marriage. I told her how long we've been together, and she got this serious look on her face. She said something like, you know, that age difference is a bit concerning. Are you sure that he didn't groom you? I was completely caught off guard. My husband and I have a perfectly healthy relationship, and honestly, I intentionally sought out someone older because I like the stability and experience that comes with it. The idea of him grooming me just seemed so absurd that I couldn't help it. I burst out laughing. I didn't intend to be rude, but it was just so ridiculous to me. Sarah mumbled something that I didn't care to hear and left the conversation soon after. I thought it was over, but later I found out that she's been talking behind my back, telling the other co-workers that I was rude for laughing at her and that she was just trying to help. But what really got me was that she's been telling people to avoid my creepy husband at an upcoming work party as if he's some kind of predator. Now I'm starting to feel a bit guilty for how I reacted, but also kind of furious that she's bad-mouthing my husband, who she's never even met. So am I the asshole here for laughing when she suggested that my husband groomed me? Pimp says, you should complain to HR about her accusations and slander against your husband. OP says, it's really the calling him creepy that makes me upset. I'm her boss, so I could fire her myself if I wanted, but I know that that would look like I'm just being petty. Tall Outside replies, I think you're being way too nonchalant about all of this. If you have an HR department worth a shit, her behavior will warrant being written up and spoken with at the very least. If your HR department is weak, take matters into your own hands. Call her into your office and say, Sarah, the other day, without any evidence whatsoever, you implied that my husband had groomed me like he was some sort of a sexual predator. I laughed at the time because it was a ridiculous notion and a ridiculous thing to say to me, but I want to be clear here. My personal life is none of your business, and it's inappropriate for you to give your unwanted opinions on it to me. Likewise, if I hear from anyone else that you were talking about my personal life to our colleagues at work, I will fire you. Now, who have you told that my husband was creepy? Let's get the air cleared right now. And then you bring all the people whom she told that into your office, and you make it clear to everyone involved that this is the kind of toxic rumor-mongering that destroys a healthy work environment. Lay down your expectations for professional behavior. Don't just continue to shrug this one off or second-guess yourself because you burst out laughing from something outrageous that Sarah said to you. I like that. That's a good idea. That's why I included that comment. That go off, queen.
Pop that shit off. She deserves it. Get everyone in there, take her to the cleaners, drag her ass. She needs to be made an example of, alright? We're bringing corporal punishment back. This is verbal lashings. We may not be able to cane people anymore physically, but we can verbally lash them for their toxic behavior. And she deserves it. She absolutely deserves to be dragged like that because she is creating a toxic environment under the guise of, oh, well, I'm just helping them out by starting a little bit of gossip. Not on my watch, Sarah, you little filthy rascal. You're not getting away with that. Not the asshole OP. And now on to the updates. Hey everyone, here is an update on what happened. After my last post, things got worse with Sarah. She wouldn't stop making comments about my relationship, always bringing up how concerning the age difference was, or making vague comments about grooming and power dynamics. At first, people politely listened, but after a while, she repeated it so often that people started to get annoyed. Even those who didn't know the full story could tell that she was going overboard. As basically everyone suggested, I decided to email HR to address the situation, but I made it clear that I didn't want to get her into trouble, just wanted to resolve things and move on. HR was, well, HR, and they begrudgingly set up an informal meeting with both of us present. During the meeting, I explained how her comments were bothering me and that I felt they were inappropriate. Sarah's defense was odd. She started by saying that she was just looking out for me and couldn't stand by and watch something bad happen, but then she got defensive, saying things like, "You just don't know what it's like to be manipulated," and "I've seen situations like this go bad." She was basically implying that she was some kind of expert on relationships like mine without actually knowing anything about it. At first, I thought maybe she had experienced something like this and felt some sympathy, but honestly, I hate making assumptions about people's past, and due to her constant talking, I assumed it would have came out if it was actually the case. At that point, I asked her, "Sarah, how old do you think I am?" She looked a bit flustered and hesitated before saying, like 24, 25? Which made no sense because I clearly look my age. I had to hold back my laughter again. When I told her I was 30, her face turned bright red and she didn't know what to say. The room got pretty awkward after that. HR stepped in and gently reminded Sarah that while it's okay to care about co-workers, constantly making unsolicited comments and spreading rumors wasn't appropriate. Sarah didn't say much after that and seemed pretty uncomfortable. She apologized, though it felt half-hearted. Since the meeting, she's stopped making comments about my husband, but things between us have been pretty awkward. At least the issue is resolved, and I'm happy that HR handled it without escalating things further. iPoopoo69 says, "Are you sure you're not getting groomed though? Like really sure? Like really, really sure?" And OP says, "Only mildly sure now. Who knows? As a 24-year-old, I was a child." Liberis says, "That one study that didn't actually examine any person older than 25 did say that brain development is still in progress until 25 years old. That means dating a 24-year-old is basically cradle robbing." Unlucky Country replies, "I knew this was all about the brain development thingy. Kids nowadays will scream, 'I'm over 18, I'm an adult,' but will pull the 'I'm under 25 card when you want accountability from them." And Bunch of Malarkey says, "It's one thing to express concern directly to an individual, it's a whole ass other thing to use your concern as an excuse to gossip about other people's business. It's amazing that she went this far without even knowing your age. Sounds like you handled it with grace. Good job, and I hope she learned a lesson." And I hope that she learned a lesson too, because, it's just not cool to do that. The hell are you doing, Sarah? Is she actually trying to get fired? Spreading gossip about your boss is going to get you fired. She has power over you. What are you doing? Glad that it got resolved this way though, and HR actually did something about it, though I won't hold my breath that Sarah is going to change her behavior. If it's not going to be you as the next victim, someone else in that office definitely is, and let's hope that Sarah is an ex-co-worker at some point. Thank you for sharing your story with us, OP, but what did you guys think of this one? Let me know in the comments down below. Am I the asshole here for tricking my sister-in-law into stealing our baby name? So I, 33 female, have been married to my husband Kevin, 35 male, for 5 years. We have a 3-year-old daughter, and I'm currently pregnant with twins, male and female. My brother-in-law Terrence, 38 male, has been married to his wife Jess, 39 female, for 7 years. Jess and I are total opposites. Jess is an extrovert. She's kind of loud, boisterous, and some would even say abrasive. I'm an introvert. I'm not quiet or shy, but I am reserved. I'm also very observant. The first time I met Jess, I told Kevin that we would be like oil and water. We've never been overly hostile towards each other, but also have never gone out of our way to bond. Unfortunately, Terrence and Jess had fertility issues for several years before finally having their son a couple of weeks ago. Prior to this, Jess was very odd towards us when I was pregnant with our daughter. The best way to describe it is hot and cold. One minute, she pretended like she didn't care while we were talking about it at family gatherings. The next, she was volunteering to throw the baby shower. I gave a firm no to that. We both assumed the behavior was because of their fertility issues and didn't think too much of it. But the strangest thing she did was almost demand to know what we were naming our daughter before we announced it. She asked us constantly after our gender reveal and got visibly annoyed when we just laughed her off and said that it was a secret. We couldn't understand why the hell she cared so much, as she was not expecting it this time. Regardless, we didn't share the name with anyone. When our daughter was born and her name was finally announced, Jess was kind of obsessed with it. I don't know how to explain it. She just kept going on and on about how beautiful and unique it was. To this day, she comments about how different it is. The name we chose is a pretty common Welsh name, which wouldn't be all that different except for the fact that we are African American. I've always gravitated towards names from different regions, and found and fell in love with the name years ago, and never shared it with anyone prior to Kevin. Fast forward to both of us being pregnant at the same time, Jess's odd behavior continued towards me, but this time it was more blatant. Snarky comments under the guise of jokes about how big I was going to get with 2 babies, and that my body would never snap back like it did after our daughter. She even accused us of getting pregnant on purpose after she announced her own pregnancy, even though the whole family knew that we were actively trying, and at the time of her announcement, I was already a few weeks along and didn't know. One thing about me, introvert or not, is that I'm no pushover and will stand up for myself. But I chose to ignore Jess because I knew that would get her more than confronting her would, since she seems to thrive off drama. Jess was obviously much further along than we are. However, we did have our gender reveal prior to Jess giving birth. And right on cue, the baby name interrogation started again. Because they decided not to find out the gender of their baby in advance, Jess kept hounding us both of the names that we'd already picked out. But again, we declined to answer. After days of this, I got annoyed and asked Kevin if he thought the reason for her insistence was so she could use the name first since she was due first. He kinda chuckled until he realized I was serious and said he didn't think so, but that anything was possible. So I said, let's test it. We were due to host my father-in-law's birthday at our house a couple of weeks later, and I decided to leave something in the unfinished nursery with a girl and boy name on it and see if Jess went snooping. Because Kevin thought it was silly, he said he would give me $20 if she did it. So I went onto some site where you can order custom name wall decals and put in the names Aria Rose and Sebastian Ali. These are names that we like, but aren't remotely close to what we chose. This will also be our last pregnancy, so even if Jess did use them, we wouldn't care. I didn't complete the order. I got to the final page and then printed it out and hid it in a dresser drawer in the nursery. The party goes off, but because we were busy hosting, we never noticed if Jess disappeared for any extended period of time. When I went into the nursery the next morning, nothing was out of place and the order sheet was still in the exact location. So we both just went, "Welp?" and forgot about it. I did, however, notice that Jess never asked us about the names again. Then Jess gives birth. We went to the hospital to give our congrats. When we go in and see the baby, I asked what his name was, and man, I cannot properly explain the shit-eating grin that came over Jess's face as she says, Sebastian Ali. I mean, she was really proud of herself, and honestly, it is the most vindictive I have ever seen her look in the years I've known her. But instead of reacting how she was expecting, I put on a performance like I had graduated from Juilliard. Oh my god, that's such a great name. He's so cute. Aw, look at his little face. Oh, I just love him so much. Welcome to the world, Sebastian. Auntie's gonna spoil you rotten. I mean, I am laying it on thick without an ounce of bother. The range of emotions on Jess's face went from shock to confusion to rage in a span of maybe 17 seconds. Meanwhile, my husband is holding in the laughter of the century. We later say our goodbyes, and he gives me a 20 in the elevator while almost crying laughing. All I could say was, like I thought. This was 2 weeks ago, and we haven't seen them since because we wanted to give them time to settle in with a new baby. I've heard from my mother-in-law that Jess doesn't seem as thrilled about motherhood as she thought she would be, considering how long it took them to conceive, but said that it might just be baby blues. Obviously, I think she's just disappointed that her petty move didn't have the desired effect on us. I did share this with my sister, and while she laughed initially, she did say that it kind of was an asshole move. So, am I the asshole here? Teresa JS says, not the asshole. That's hilarious. Put sister-in-law on an information diet about anything having to do with your pregnancy and kids. Sister-in-law probably isn't done trying to cause drama. OP replies, I am more concerned about this now. Before her pregnancy, her and brother-in-law lived in another state for years. That's why it was so easy for me to ignore her. They moved back here in May, and it became harder to dodge her. Teresa replies, be ready for the questions about where you buy their clothes, what pediatrician you use, what extracurricular activities you're going to do, what daycare or preschool you use, etc. Avoid telling her details if you can. Proper Foundation says, not the asshole and well played. Jess got exactly what she deserved. HB Mart says, yeah, I think it's impossible to be an asshole towards certain people, and she's one of them. You just have to take them down however you can, because they're never going to stop making life difficult. Couldn't agree more with you there, and I think those that said you are a little bit of an asshole for doing that are just saying, well yeah, it was a dick move, but it's funny. So to me that says you're not an asshole for what you did, because she deserved it. Fighting fire with fire does not make you the asshole in this situation. I'm glad that no flying monkeys have come to attack you either in this situation, because we all know how that goes, and that is a draining experience to go through. Though I do wonder how she plans to retaliate, and how you'll respond to her when she does retaliate. We'll see who the asshole is after all that. And now on to the updates. Hey y'all, thanks for the responses to my original post. The comments were funnier than I was expecting, and kept me and my husband pretty entertained. I tried to respond to as many as I could before they got away from me. I've gotten some messages asking for an update, but nothing major has really happened. Jess didn't break into my house to push me down the steps and steal my kid, but I did get some additional information though that I can pass along. Before I get to that, I want to give a little bit of context about my relationship with Jess to explain why I did what I did. Feel free to skip past it. To put it plainly, Jess and I have been in a one-sided beef since the day that Kevin and I started dating. I give her zero thought if I don't have to, and yet I live rent-free in her mind. Based on snide comments that she's made over the years, the reason why is jealousy. Kevin and I dated for only a year before we got engaged. We then were married within 6 months of that engagement. We had an actual wedding with a ceremony and reception, went on a honeymoon, bought a house in the burbs, and got pregnant in rapid succession. Both of us have good careers and are financially stable. Mother-in-law, father-in-law, and grandmother-in-law all adore me. There is a churchy reason behind this that I will spare you on. Jess and Terrence did not have a similar path. They have been on and off since they were 19 and 20, with Terrence never really wanting to commit. During one of their breaks, Terrence got a friends with benefits pregnant and now has an 11-year-old son. This has always been a sore subject with Jess due to her fertility struggles with fibroids. When they finally got back together, she pressed him for marriage until he relented and gave her a shut-up ring. They went to the courthouse on a random Tuesday, then had dinner at Red Lobster afterwards, and went back to work the next day. Not trying to be shady, just relaying the facts. They now live in a 2-bedroom apartment in a high cost of living city while working hourly jobs. They aren't minimum wage or anything, but constantly need overtime to make ends meet. This had led her to resent me over the years. She thinks everything has come easily to me and has let that fester. There was a time a few years ago at a gathering where she got drunk and got into an argument with Terrence. I think her attitude that night stemmed from seeing me with my infant daughter. To hurt him, she blurted out that she married the wrong brother. Everyone was shocked. I wasn't. She just said the quiet part out loud and revealed what I already knew. So I poked her a bit and said, "Really? Which one? That's kinda gross since both were minors when you met them." Context, Kevin and Terrence also have a younger brother, Tim, 28. Boy, did she fly off the handle at that. To this day, she claims to have no memory of that night. Anyway, now I know there is a reason why she resents me. Now for the update. Like I said, nothing's really happened since I last posted. I haven't seen or even heard from Jess since that day in the hospital. Terrence also hasn't communicated much with Kevin other than sports talk. However, my mother-in-law has been with him almost every day. She came over yesterday to go over some last-minute things for our baby shower that we are having this Saturday after Halloween. I am not due till late January, but with the holidays and the twins tending to arrive early, we just wanted to get it out of the way. Anyway, after finalizing some things, I asked mother-in-law how Terrence and Jess were doing. She sighed and leaned back into her chair and said, "Girl, it's a mess." She goes on a long word vomit that I will have to summarize. Basically, they've been at it since before the baby was born. When they were discussing names, Jess's list only consisted of girl names. When Terrence asked what if it's a boy, Jess was adamant that it wouldn't be. But if it was, they would just use Terrence Jr. This caused an argument because Terrence's 11-year-old is not named after him, and it would be petty to name the second son Jr. Unbeknownst to me, Jess was having severe anxiety over not the name, but the gender of their baby. So much so that she refused to find out early because she was afraid of disappointment and she wanted to really enjoy her pregnancy believing that she was having a girl. She really wanted a girl. I mean, really wanted a girl. This goes back to mother-in-law in my opinion. Mother-in-law is the only girl of 4 brothers. She had 3 boys, and 2 of her 3 boys, Tim has a 6-year-old, have boys. Then my daughter came along. Mother-in-law actually broke down in tears at our gender reveal. Since the day she was born, mother-in-law has become a little obsessed with her. Not in a just no mother-in-law way. She knows and respects boundaries, but the whole family is aware that my daughter is my mother-in-law's favorite person in the world. I think Jess thought that by having a girl, she would get the same affection and attention from mother-in-law as she has never been Jess's biggest fan. When that didn't happen, something short-circuited in her head. Mother-in-law's words, not mine. Before we arrived at the hospital that day, they were still fighting over a name. So I guess when I showed up, she just blurted it out. While I still think that it was to hurt me, it seems like it was also because she didn't allow herself to think of anything else because she didn't want a boy. I said in the first post how I noticed her expression. However, I completely failed to notice Terrence's. He was pissed. Jess had never mentioned that name to him prior, and he had no clue where it even came from. He also hated it. He refused to sign off on that, and they left the hospital without a name. In our state, you only have 7 days from birth to register a name. She eventually told Terrence to pick the name himself and that she didn't care anymore. So he did. He swapped out Sebastian for Jordan, but kept Ali. Yes, after Michael and Muhammad. According to mother-in-law, since they've been home, Jess has shut down emotionally. She's been doing all of the motherly things, but there's a disconnect there. Mother-in-law said she finally broke down to her a few nights ago that she'll likely never have a daughter due to her age and what it took to get pregnant in the first place. I think that will bring them closer together since mother-in-law never got the daughter that she wanted either. I also felt bad hearing that because regardless of how I feel about her as a person, I do have a heart and would never want to punch down on her if she's in the throes of PPD. Jess still hasn't admitted to snooping, so I haven't admitted to setting her up. A few comments said I should never confess, but I think I will at some point, mainly because I don't care.
I am more than willing to burn a bridge while I'm still standing on it, but now simply isn't the time. So that's it. That's the lackluster update. Jess is invited to my baby shower, so I might be back in a couple of weeks depending on how that shakes out. Savvy Maverick says, well damn, that's not where I saw this going. Might not have been crazy as you say, but definitely quite the revelation. I feel for Jess to a point, but the minute she made that comment about my husband, all gloves would have been off. Your restraint is commendable. I hope she gets counseling so that little boy doesn't have to grow up knowing that his mother didn't want him. P.S. Absolutely don't listen to the person who said to go out of your way to be nice to her. This site is full of willing doormats, and I'm actually quite sick of it. OP says, I'm mostly worried about my nephew in all of this, but I really do think mother-in-law will step up and help. I don't know if I can, or what that would even look like. We've never been close before this, and likely never will. The best way for me to help is actually just to leave her be. Every mama deserves a village, and had she shown me the slightest bit of kindness in all these years, I would be a part of that. Yet here we are. Foxy sly old sturdy fox replies, she wanted to sabotage your own child's life, albeit in such a pitiful way and on such a pitiful scale, virtually from the moment of conception. And if you're too generous-spirited to concede that, then you have to agree that she wanted to steal some of your happiness to feed herself. Again, in a truly pitiable way. Giving her a wide berth is surely the best for you and your own children. Play the same role you did when she unveiled her son's name. Keep her, and sadly her family, including her son, at arm's length. And feel sorry for the kid. Yeah, I don't know why OP said that this wasn't an eventful update. If anything, it just really grounded the situation. And in a way, I can pity her, knowing that, life ain't always fair and life is a bit shit, and she had all that anxiety going on. Doesn't excuse her actions, just makes me understand a bit more why she did the messed up things that she did. I do hope that she gets the support she needs to deal with the PPD that she's experiencing, and it wouldn't surprise me if this emotional breakdown was enough to break the relationship that she and Terrence have, because that's a real tough situation to have to go through, that's for sure. Better them than me, man. I am not God's strongest soldier. I would fold under the pressure of that situation if I was Terrence. Not to say that I'd abandon my wife, absolutely not, but man, having a partner smite your in-laws like that and be in such drama with OP's mother-in-law here, my God, that's a rock and a hard place situation that he put himself in. I'm not gonna discount that. He put himself here. How do you even moderate a situation from his perspective is my question. I don't even know what he can do besides just be there to support her and kind of bring her out of the throes of craziness that she was exhibiting. Anyway, I agree with OP's actions in this situation. I still think they're not the asshole, and I think they do need to continue to keep all those people on an information diet. Because to me, it doesn't sound like Jess is done being an absolute savage. I'm manifesting an update in the future where there's a round 2 from Jess, and who knows what she's gonna do, but she's cooking something, that's for sure. Thank you for sharing your story with us, OP. That was, again, very grounded, very human story. I really enjoyed that one. What do you guys think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. Am I the asshole for refusing to take care of my wife since she caught the flu from having sex with her affair partner? This is partially a rant and partially an actual question. I, 54 male, have been married to my wife Victoria, 54 female, for over 32 years. We have 3 adult daughters and 1 adult son. Early this year, she started menopause. I loved her and supported her throughout this difficult time. She said she didn't want to have sex because she felt like she's fat and ugly. I told her that she is beautiful, and I was patient with her as she said she didn't want sex. It was only since this month that she wanted us to have sex again. I thought things were getting better until I saw a condom wrapper in our bedroom. My job involves going out of town for business trips. This last trip, I tried to get into my wife's social media, and luckily enough, she used someone's birthday as the password. I found out that her affair partner is Zachary, 35 male, a family friend who has a wife, 29 female. So on my trip, I read so many messages. One message involved Zachary asking if it's okay to come over for their fun time since he thinks he's coming down with something. Even after getting back in town, I read some messages. Zachary messaged that he and his wife have the flu, so he can't see my wife for a while. My wife said that herself getting the flu was worth it. I came home to my wife, who is suffering from the flu. I immediately told her that I know about her and Zachary. She was upset, but too weak from the flu to stop me from packing and leaving. She begged me to not leave her alone while she is sick. After I left, my wife has been messaging me. She said she is very sick. I told her to go to the doctor, call an ambulance, or call someone else. She said she's not dying, but she needs me. She said she can't call our kids, nor any other family members, since they'll ask why I'm not there. She said that menopause had made her crazy and that she wouldn't see Zachary anymore. I still haven't gone back. Am I the asshole? Avatar Julia says, I wouldn't have packed and left. I would have drove her to Zachary's place and told him that you left this at my place. Mustang says, call the wife and tell her. Call all of your kids and tell them before she lies, and do the kids right away. See a lawyer right away too. OP replies, I would hate to tell my kids, but I may have to if their mum will lie to them. The sanity inspector says, menopause did not make her cheat. Mail order a carton of NyQuil to her if you're feeling a little compassionate. OP says, I'll never know what menopause feels like. I've known other women who have gone through it. To my knowledge, those women have managed to avoid having sex with a married man who is a family friend. Go Hi Sweet Cherry says, please see a lawyer. Do you live in a no-fault state? If not, you might have to take screenshots of the messages, etc. before she deletes them all. I'm sorry that you have to go through this. And OP says, I did take screenshots. I have saved evidence in other ways as well. Whether or not they can be used in court is something I'll find out from a lawyer. Go Hi Sweet Cherry replies to that, then please see one on Monday morning. You need to know if you leaving the property is a good idea or if she should leave. I know you're hurting, but practicalities will mean a lot in the long run. Don't feel sorry for her just because she's got the flu. Feel sorry for yourself. You are so loving and trusting, and you didn't see what a disloyal and unfaithful snake that you were married to. Not the asshole. And OP replies, I have to fight the natural instincts, which are to feel sorry for her and to take care of her. I will see a lawyer. Restore Furniture 179 says, single woman here. I take care of myself when I'm sick. She can too. She chose that outcome, and now she has to lie sick in it. All kinds of ick sleeping with a married man-child close to the family. OP replies, she literally chose to have sex with a man who warned her that he was coming down with something, and afterwards, she messaged him that their fun was worth getting the flu. I have to remember that in case I feel sorry for her. Back up to the post, there is an edit. As soon as I found the messages, I was planning on telling Zach's wife. I wanted to tell her face to face. I wanted to spare our adult kids the horrible news. But many in the comments made a good point that my wife could lie to our kids. So I called Zach's wife first. I don't know what's going on in their marriage because she believed me right away. I called my kids and talked to them like a conference call. I had to, unfortunately, send some proof to them. I didn't go overboard, just enough for them to believe me. Obviously, they are all upset. I tried to keep it together as I don't want to vent about their mother to them. Second edit, Zach's wife has been messaging me last night and this morning. She was planning on leaving Zachary anyway because Zachary was sleeping with 2 other women. But the fact that Victoria is a married woman who is like a family member speeds things up. Zach's wife made Zachary leave the house. Also, all of my kids have called their mother. They are not buying any of their mum's excuses. They all want me to divorce her. And yeah, I think you're not the asshole for refusing to take care of your wife. She's trying to shield herself from the consequences of her actions. Unfortunately, you can't allow that to happen, and you haven't. You've gone and told everyone. I really don't know what delusional fantasy land that she was living in, wherein you come home, take care of her while she's sick, and then lie to everyone about her cheating. Like, what was the end game there?
Just completely forgive the cheating, allow her to get away with it, don't tell anyone, and kind of just open the door for her to do it more? Because that's how I'm reading the situation here. It's really sick that people can just live in denial like that. I want to smoke whatever crack she was smoking. Regardless, you've done everything right so far. She deserves it for cheating on you. That is pathetic behavior from her. And I'm looking forward to the update. So yeah, not the asshole. And now, on to the update. The answer was obvious, but I needed other people to tell me, so I didn't stupidly go back to my wife. Thank you for those who commented on the first post. I had made 2 edits on the first post explaining some stuff that happened after I posted. To just briefly touch on those edits, Zach's wife and my adult kids now know that my wife Victoria had an affair with Zachary. Zach's wife kicked him out of their house, all kids are on my side and they want us to divorce. I talked to a friend who was a major divorce attorney for the 3rd time. I've given her a lot of the evidence so that she can decide what we can use. She did say that I should be careful with what I say online, especially since I used Victoria's and Zachary's real names. Our kids, especially our eldest daughter, are pressuring their mum to make this a quick and easy divorce. A lot of people who commented said that I was being too nice to my cheating wife. I'll show some pettiness by letting everyone here mock all the excuses and minimizations that she made for her cheating. Quote, menopause made her crazy. She felt fat and ugly. She felt like she didn't deserve me. Zachary came on to her first. She wanted to make sure that a man can be attracted to her without him being obligated to her because she's the mother of his children. She had sex with Zachary to make sure she can still have sex. Just had to make sure downstairs was still fully functional. Had to have someone else test out the gear. Zachary didn't mean anything to her. I'm overreacting because Zachary is a family friend, not a family member. Ew, why you have to frame it like that? Well, at least I'm not having sex with my dad. That would have been way worse. Zach's wife isn't like a daughter to us. She didn't betray a woman that's like a daughter to us. Other husbands have forgiven their wives when the wives cheat. If I had sex with a younger woman during a midlife crisis, she would have forgave me. Biggest lie I ever heard. She would not be that charitable, you liar. We have 4 kids. We've been together for so long. I promise to love her in sickness and in health. The sunk cost fallacy strikes again. Zanif says, quotes, she felt like she didn't deserve me. I mean, she ain't wrong. Desperate to Not Dream says, it's interesting how she's refusing to acknowledge any harm she did to the other wife. OP says, Zachary's wife is someone Victoria and I watched grow up. She was like a niece. Our eldest daughter was the maid of honor for their wedding. Fragrant Opportunity says, menopause makes just about every woman gain weight, especially in the stomach. I went through it about 13 years ago. Never cheated on my husband. OP says, my eldest daughter didn't appreciate it when my wife said that when she goes through menopause, she'll understand. Snarky Bean Broth says, just gonna note that as someone who has gone through the I feel old and fat and ugly stuff without using it as an excuse to cheat, having feelings about aging can be a real struggle. But it's a struggle that is on you, the person struggling, to address and fix. I've made peace with my older, slightly chubbier, more grey self. Some of it by putting in the emotional labor, and some of it by proactively doing stuff, like exercising, to mitigate the changes. I feel unattractive isn't a free pass to check with the public about one's attractiveness in the please vote with your dick kind of way. If she needed outside validation beyond you telling her and showing her that you still loved her and found her attractive, there were plenty of ways that didn't involve someone else's dick. Like TikTok thirst traps, for example. Well, what's going on here? Still not the asshole. I'm saddened for all of you involved in the blast radius of this shit show. OP says, thank you. I was there constantly telling her how beautiful I found her. Why would she need another man to feel better? Purple Loving Brunette says, I'm in the early stages of menopause, and it hasn't caused me to cheat. It didn't cause my stepmom to cheat. It's such a lame excuse on why she cheated. I find it funny that Zach was seeing another woman while he was seeing the married woman. Wife lost everything. I hope her affair partner was worth it. Zach's wife and the husband can be each other's support systems.
Be so ironic if he and Zach's wife got together. And OP says, I had watched Zach's wife grow up. She was like a niece. It would be icky, for a lack of a better term. I understand why people say things like, it'd be so ironic if he and the wife got together and these two people on the moral high ground were their own support systems. Like, yeah, in an ideal world where I'm reading text on a screen, I can imagine two perfectly compatible people here, but stop saying that all the time. It's so unrealistic. Just because two people were wronged in the same situation does not mean they're compatible. And in this case, it's like a family member. Big ick. Regardless, this seems like the expected result. Glad OP had the backbone and support of the community that gave him that full-on push to just out her, tell everyone about it, give her the consequences of her actions. We love to see that. She deserved it, Zach deserved it, Zach deserves the worst here for cheating with someone else as well. I hope OP's ex and Zach, continue to stay together, continue to be miserable, and keep themselves away from the rest of us. That is all I hope for in this situation. Thank you for sharing the story with us, OP. I very much appreciate that. And I want to know what you guys think of it down in the comments below. Let me know. Our next post is by user internboy123, titled, I, 26 female, went to a perfect wedding with my significant other, 27 male, and now we're both freaking out and gave each other a month to decide to stay or split up. I feel so confused and scared. Advice? So my partner and I have been together for more than 3 years. He's not perfect, but he is purely and genuinely good, curious about the world, honest, very intelligent, very caring. I do not doubt that we feel love for each other. We went to a friend's wedding together, and honestly, the vows the couple said were so intense and true and honest. I am not speculating. We both have known this couple, and we know that their words are not wedding performance. They are way too cynical to play something up for a wedding. That it left me wondering whether I could say those things about my significant other or anyone. It made me think, wow, love like that exists? Where two people can really say that they want 100 forevers with the person standing in front of them? Between the wedding and now, I bottled up these feelings because I was already feeling stressed out about my work probation. But last night we met up for dinner, and we both agreed that we are wondering if this relationship is still something we both want, and that we were both freaked out by the wedding vows. Think that episode of Master of None with the Italian wedding. Between the wedding and pre-dinner conversation, when I was thinking about ending things, it felt like the right call because he stopped being super communicative, and it helped me peel away. But since, of course, it turned out that it was him thinking things over too, and we both are on the same page about the things that are lacking, intentionality, more sex, among other things, I feel like it could be worth it to give it another shot, given we've been through so much together, and we hold each other so dearly and care deeply for each other. Can this deep care, though, turn into sprightly attraction again, and the giddiness of the first few months? I love him, he loves me, but we're unsure if we can confidently say that we can see our forevers together right now. But we love each other, and we struggle to envision how I can function without his presence, given that we have grown so attached and enmeshed in each other's lives. We don't live together, but he is my quote-unquote person at the moment, if that makes sense. And we live in a huge, fast-paced city. Think New York or London, where it's hard to make connections, friends, or date. I feel like we have a good thing going, but I don't know if I would ever feel like saying forever. Does this mean continuing it is a waste of time? What do we do? I feel so scared of making the wrong choice, especially because of my intense job, and feeling like if I'm not with him, who is my comfort and person? I'll just be an anxious mess alone. I feel like we can fight for this, but it's like, are we fighting for mediocrity, or are we fighting for something that can be made into a forever, or a secret third thing? I don't know. Edit, I do have friends, I just haven't developed very deep friendships in this city. I've been living here for the past 2 years to feel like I have the adequate support community to help me through a potential breakup this intense. I just wonder if you're overthinking this or not, because to me,
I'm reminded of that post the other day where the bride wanted to invite her ex to her wedding in order to show the ex up. I could see a lot of you were saying that my reaction, saying that's a real big red flag, that's breakup territory worthy, why is she even thinking about him, was an overreaction, that I was thinking too deep about it. Is my read on this situation an overreaction? Am I thinking too deep? I think that they are overreacting here and comparing themselves to something that is unrealistic given where they are in their situation right now. Like, this concept of love and attraction and commitment to each other, in my opinion, my bias, is a very much new age concept. My grandparents, for example, got knocked up before they were 20, had to have a shotgun wedding because of religious expectations in the town of not having a child until after you're married. But yet they stuck together and they loved each other throughout their entire life. Things were not perfect at the start. They didn't really like each other, from what I'm told, but it developed into a deep love like these two are describing. So my read is if you guys aren't feeling it right now, that doesn't mean it won't develop into what you have seen at this wedding. You guys are putting the cart before the horse. Slow down. Stop overthinking this situation. Stop comparing yourselves. It's not that deep. This isn't something that you should have to break up over, but I understand if you do. I'd still blame you for overthinking in that situation, and I think it would be the wrong choice. In the comments, Dutchman76 says, "New relationship goal unlocked. Make other people break up over how amazing our love and wedding was." Some guy in the UK says, "Comparison is a thief of joy." Math Hatter replies, "This, but also that couple might feel this way genuinely and truly, and also find that the stresses of co-parenting make them fight all the time. Or one of them could fall into a deep, passionate love with someone else 10 years from now and have an affair. A snapshot can be real, but that doesn't make it permanent. Maybe their relationship is a rocky roller coaster, and for all you know, the wedding was at the high point, and maybe yours is more like a multi-decade hike through a beautiful forest. Don't settle for something that won't make you happy, but don't make the grass is always greener mistake either." Connect Industry says, "I think the bigger problem here is that you're terrified of being alone. In addition to that, it seems like you don't have friends? This is concerning. You should still have autonomy and a life outside of your boyfriend. All other aspects of your life should still get your attention, regardless of what relationship you're in." So about the wedding thing, I wonder if this was the first wedding you've ever attended. Most weddings are like what you described. Beautiful vows that make you tear up, an overwhelming sense of love in the room. The couple seems extremely in love. Remember that this is their day to point out all the good things. Some people really are with their soulmate, and they profess that in front of others. Other people may not feel that way a few years down the line. Don't compare yourself to that. I think you should continue to have conversations with your partner about the state of your relationship. If you two identify that you are not in love, ask yourselves if you ever were, and if you can get back to that. If you weren't, can love grow? What would that take? You may come to the conclusion that your boyfriend is really just your best friend that you sleep with, and that's okay. If that's the case, then you should move on amicably. OP replies, "It was the second wedding. The first was a family member who has been with their significant other for 15 plus years, so it was more of a formality wedding and not as big and bashful as this one. I really appreciate this answer. I do have friends and hobbies and interests I keep up. I just feel like I would still feel a big hole without him, even with my nourishing of the other parts of my life. We, me and significant other, don't even live together. I live with 2 friends that I know will be there for me. It's just tough to envision the break, basically. Thank you again for taking the time to write all this." And now, onto the updates. We are now going to take a step back from the relationship. I want to work on it and bring the spark back in, but he wants space to think about whether he even wants to try with me at all. So it wasn't just about the wedding vows for him. I feel so heartbroken because he was bottling up a lot of issues he felt were present but did not tell me about, or if he did, didn't stress that they were make or break.
I feel like these issues were and are so workable. But instead of communicating with me about them and how important they were, he's now pointing towards them as a sign that we are incompatible as long-term partners. I think this is an avoidant attachment style thing. He says the relationship can be saved, and that he loves me very much, and that he still is attracted to me, but he's unsure whether he wants to work on the relationship at all, given that we are so young and he's got new things going on. He just started a PhD and is meeting new people, which I suspect is making him think that there is no room for me or our relationship in his life in the same way anymore. He voiced that we have jumped into serious partnership too quickly, and that he wants to have a more normal 20s relationship. The fact that he's thinking about our relationship of more than 3 years as something so disposable, and that I need to be just okay with him taking a step back from it all kills me. In fact, it seems irrational to me, although love and relationships never are, since I know he wouldn't lie to me about loving me, thinking it's salvageable, nor being attracted. If there is love and hope and attraction, why not try? I feel like an idiot, because I could react to all of this in an, okay, if you're not 100% sure you want me, then F you. I'm leaving and I don't want you 10 times more way, but instead, I'm approaching it in an, okay, I will take this period with an open heart and be the best version of your partner and hold out hope that you choose me again. The second option is torturous given that it's me holding out, choosing to maybe get seriously hurt if he ends things, and also makes me anxious throughout the day as I am in constant fear that he's got the power to say, I don't want this actually. I wish he would say, let's try again instead. All Night says, girl, I was in a relationship with a man like this, and I had the same approach you described in the last paragraph. He's not going to want to try again. Please don't be like me and have enough will and self-respect to walk away first instead of being treated like this. OP replies, damn, yeah, it's hurting myself for ambiguity and insecurity. I don't want to do this for much longer. What made you decide not to walk away? All Night replies, as cliche as it is, love. Made me cling to hope that he would do better. He didn't. Unfortunately, I had allowed him to come back repeatedly into my life, and each time he managed to convince me he had changed. All lies. Each time it ended the same way, with him dipping because of various stresses in his life, then coming back a few months later with a bunch of apologies and excuses. After the last time, I said some very cathartic and very hurtful things to him, so this time I'm pretty sure he won't be back, hopefully. Few Coat says, the old adage rings true. He doesn't know what he wants, he just hasn't the heart to say that it's not you. Professor Long PhD says, reading a bit into Between the Lines, sounds like he might have also potentially met some other people, women, through his PhD program experience that is making him wonder if being single would give him a chance to be a mid-20s guy with them. Grass is greener elsewhere kind of deal. I think that this is a situation where a clean break is needed, and if it comes up, not taking the partner back. I can almost see how that plotline plays out, and the OP is worse off for it. Yeah, you made the right decision going on a break. In my heart of hearts, again, my bias, I don't think he's gonna come back and reignite that passion with you. He has experienced things, and he is keeping things from you once again. He's already admitted to you before that he kept all of these feelings in and didn't want to communicate them, was not transparent, and then he brought them up with you in a way that they are a deal breaker. When obviously from your side of the field, you say these are things that we can work on, these are not deal breakers. Why are you framing it like that? That's disingenuous. So then now in his PhD program, he's obviously experienced more things, and there are more issues in his mind, and there are more people where the grass is greener that he thinks I can do better. Comparing this to my current relationship, it's not what I want. And then I'm going to go further and say, wow, this wedding that we've been to, I want a wedding with someone in this PhD program, perhaps. That would be my perfect ideal partner. But of course, I'm not going to tell that to OP because that would hurt her feelings.
and that would lead to the immediate breakup of the relationship, and I would be the bad guy. Whereas if I just extend it for a while and then eventually break up with her, she might forget about all these things that we're currently heated about. That is where my mind goes with this situation. Obviously, I might be wrong, who knows? But at the end of the day, I don't think that there is a universe where he comes back, apologizes, is suddenly transparent in his communication, and you guys are all hunky-dory. I think that we've gone way past that point, and I think that line was crossed probably halfway into the relationship with all of these things he was bottling up. Was this ever a healthy relationship? I don't know. But I do think the best course of action is having a clean break. Block him if you want to, but don't allow him back into your life. Don't allow them to reignite this relationship, because I don't think it will ever work. Find someone that is completely sure about wanting to be with you through the ups, through the downs. Doesn't have to be a perfect relationship, but they know they want you, not the asshole OP, and thank you for sharing your story. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below.